Hey, this is Carmine Apiece. Even though I don't look like Carmine Apiece, I am Carmine Apiece. And you're listening to Tom and Zeus on the Shout It Out Loudcast. So keep listening, keep rocking.
The pounding of John Bonham's drum, the howling of Robert Plant's vocals, the splues crashing tones of Jimmy Page's guitar, and the backbone bass melodies of John Paul Jones. In January 1969, the invasion was official. Led Zeppelin released their first debut album, Led Zeppelin I. And on the latest Led Zeppelin Chronicles, we talk all things Led Zeppelin I with Tom and Zeus from Shout Out Loudcast, superfan Murph, and myself, Jay Scott from the Hook Rocks.
Excellent, Jay. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's been a long time for us to get back together for Led Zeppelin I. We apologize for the delay to all the Zeppelin freaks out there, but we're back. So it's nice to see everybody here. Hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving and ready to talk all things Zeppelin.
Absolutely. This is, I know with the holidays and everything coming about, I know things, we were planning on recording a few weeks ago, but hey, we're here. We're talking Zeppelin, one of our favorite bands, my favorite band. And it's always a good time seeing you guys and talking about one of the greatest bands and now their debut album. So looking forward to that.
Guys, good to be here. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving with turkey and stuffing, and we'll spend the next few hours feasting on one of our favorite bands.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Me and Tom know that we've been getting a lot of DMs, messages like, what the hell? Are you guys going to do this Zeppelin thing? What happened to it? What's it going? I'm like, Jesus Christ. If you can imagine between all the work that we've been doing lately of keeping up with episodes, we fit in a Kiss cruise in the middle of all this. So that kind of put the kibosh on getting this thing done out prior to Thanksgiving. But we're here. We're ready to get this thing rolling. So pumped to get this thing started with you guys.
Actually, if I could say, Tom, I know that this meeting has taken place. It's a little later than we had all planned, but as you noted at the beginning of this podcast and previously, that I'm a super fan. I've always considered myself a big Led Zeppelin fan, but I have to say, and I've shared this with Tommy, that after listening to some of the depths that Jay went into in the last pod, I did feel a little bit, I know I'm dating myself here, and I know each of you would probably relate to it as well. Jay going into some of his details in the last episode reminded me of me feeling like Chevy Chase as Gerald Ford, where he's staring and goes, it was agreed upon that there would be no math as part of the debate. So I have spent the last 10 to 12 weeks doing quite a bit of reading and making sure I'm feeling prepared. I may not be prepared, but I'm feeling prepared.
We appreciate the preparation of the work, but let's remind everybody, this is not a test. This is not a test of skill or wits. It's us talking about a band that we love with some information, facts, and background. But everybody's tuning in to hear these four wonderful voices and all of our expert opinions. I think I can say that pretty confidently, correct? Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, keep in mind, too, this is knowledge attained since I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
This is Led Zeppelin has pretty much been my favorite band ever since then. I was a Kiss fan, early on. And then I tell that story about my cousin coming over with a duffel bag full of bootlegs. And that whole summer, I was just indoctrinated into Led Zeppelin. And I just, again, everything that I talk about, it's because I've just learned that information as I've grown up and become, a father, and now 46 years old. So it's like 30 years of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And for the people that are tuning in for the first time and don't know that Zeus and I have Shout It Out Loudcast, the All Kiss podcast, and this is a kind of a spinoff for our other favorite band. It's kind of the same thing with us when we talk about Kiss. It's just knowledge that's just in you. But researching for Zeppelin is a band unlike any other. The amount of information can be overwhelming, but as fans, we love it. And that's why Zeus and I came together to say, let's do the Zeppelin Chronicles. A band like this deserves a special sidecast. So here we are.
Yeah. So what we'll do is kind of follow along the same pattern as we do on our album review crew episodes.
Yep.
Instead of just doing one album review episode on Zeppelin and then maybe every 2 years or so bring up another, we're like, we're doing a Zeppelin just on the discography on Zeppelin and, more stuff as well. But Zeppelin needs its own kind of show. So following along that pattern of the ARC episodes, we usually get into feedback. Now, we released the kind of introductory episode about the Zeppelin Chronicles, similar to how we did Wouldn't You Like to Know Me, Tom, on Shout It Out Loudcast. And we got some feedback, right?
We did. And like Zeus said, we've been getting some DMs and some posts on Twitter and Facebook about people, when's the next Zeppelin Chronicles coming out? So that right there told us that we're doing something right, that we're hitting the nerve for all the Zepp freaks out there. So the feedback was awesome. It was excellent. People were excited that we're doing something Zeppelin related. They were surprised. They're like, how do you guys have the time to do this? And we said, well, when you're talking about something you love, it's not work. And that's what it is. So the feedback was overwhelmingly positive, but also filled with excitement. What are you guys going to do? Excited to hear the four of us talk. They know Murph from Shout It Out Loudcast. They know Jay from The Hook Rocks, and we've been on his show. He's been on ours. So to hear us together, I think people were very excited to kick this thing off. And of course, as we said, we're excited too.
Yeah. And what we normally do, Tom, we get into our background. How did we come into this album? Let's start off with Murph.
Sure. I can't specifically say when I bought this album, had in my possession. As noted on the last episode, going into college, the only album I had was Led Zeppelin IV. But when we went to college and Tommy and Zeus, we're all on the same hall, wing, what have you. 70% of the people had Led Zeppelin in the room, CD, tape, what have you. And I think it was just osmosis. At some point, I just had Led Zeppelin I in my possession, but I was listening to it continuously that freshman year. So I don't know if it was Columbia House. I don't know if it was at a Tower Records or Strawberries in the Boston area, but sometime around 91, 92, it was in my collection. And, and then just started adding to it after that. And I'm not sure if Led Zeppelin I was the first album I got. It might have been 2, then 1, but it's definitely been in my possession for about 30 years now.
Yeah, for me, it's weird. And I kind of hinted at this at the intro episode. My background with collecting Kiss music, I have specific memories of when I got Love Gun, when I got Dynasty, when I got Alive 2, when I got et cetera, et cetera. Zeppelin is such a unique band for me because although I love them and everything about them, it's like they've always been like a part of me. And I have no specific memories of purchasing their music because I feel like I've always had their music with me. I do know that like most people our age that weren't complete diehard Zeppelin fans at a younger age, everybody kind of started like Murph did with Zeppelin IV, because of Stairway to Heaven and you heard all those classic rock songs, Black Dog, rock and roll. And then you kind of move yourself backwards into their catalog, because as we were older, Zeppelin they weren't a greatest hits band either. They didn't start putting out collections until much later, especially when that Crop Circle box set came out and then moving forward. So you heard them on the radio and then you had their studio album. So, I've had it. I feel like I know the album inside and out and I've been listening to it my whole life, but I can't pinpoint when I had it. I do believe it was the cassette that I had first. And having an older sibling, it was probably by that, like a lot of us, our older siblings, we kind of get the music from them. So that's Zeppelin I for me. Yeah.
Jay? For me, it was the bootlegs came first. I mean, imagine that you're becoming a fan of a band and you're listening to live bootleg albums that was, back then bootlegs were kind of scandalous. Like, you kind of had to secretly know where to get them. So that was my introduction to Zeppelin. And then I was introduced to the box set through friends and I was listening to that. And it wasn't until later on when I bought Led Zeppelin I. And I know it wasn't the first Zeppelin album I bought, and it wasn't probably the second or third, but it was further on down the line. I bought it at Rolling Stone Records outside of Chicago when I got paid from working at the local grocery store. and went on a Friday night, picked up a new album. I forget what the new album was. And I bought Led Zeppelin I on cassette to begin with. So that's my history with the album.
All right. So for me, I believe the first time I got into Zeppelin, and I talked about it in the introductory episode, another one of those, like somebody older, a relative, family, my brother, my cousins got me into it. So I started, with the easy one, the one that everybody knew, Zeppelin IV. And then when I would do these trips, I would go every other summer to Greece. I started buying the cassettes when in Greece, because European bands, like Zeppelin's a British band, you could find that stuff in Europe. And I remember getting Zeppelin I amongst the albums that the cassettes that I would get. The funny thing is that cassette always had the tracks backwards. So everything opens with "Your Time Is Gonna Come" and it ends with "Dazed and Confused." To me, that actually makes a little bit more sense, but it works either way. And then I just remembered listening to this and being like, holy shit, this is quite different. And I remember myself being drawn to it more so than Zeppelin IV. And I think it was probably my second Zeppelin album I've ever bought. And, hard to kind of examine it closely when it's those, an album from the 60s on a cassette in Greece.
Right.
But I knew the tracks inside out and really, really drawn to it. It just helps cement that, what? I get why all these people are saying Zeppelin. And been in love with it ever since.
Yeah, one thing I do remember when I did go backwards to Zeppelin I after hearing Zeppelin IV, I was like, oh shit. I'm like, this is different. Like, this is not Zeppelin IV. There's a lot going on here. Like, this band is like, I feel like Zeppelin I, and we'll get into it when we break down the tracks and everything. This album kind of piqued my interest a little bit more than Zeppelin IV. I mean, Zeppelin IV to people is the holy grail of Zeppelin albums. Whether or not we all agree with that, we'll eventually get to that point. But for me, Zeppelin I just really kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit more when I heard it in a mostly positive way that we'll eventually talk about. So,
yeah, and I mentioned it quickly, but the truth of the matter is there is this album cover, which, in the glory days of music and buying albums and discovering new artists, classic artists, there was an art of album covers. Zeppelin was definitely part of it. And these, I don't know, I can't think of a Zeppelin album that you couldn't call iconic other than maybe Coda.
Right.
This is iconic. So who wants to start here on the album cover?
I will take that. I was thinking about it, just what the album covers were like of that particular time. You're year plus away from the Summer of Love. The Beatles were still at the top of the charts with the White Album. And I was thinking of, a young teenager coming home and the parents seeing, what may have been the first mass casualty ever caught on camera being there on an album. And, you're thinking, oh, the humanity. And it's an album cover that gets your attention. And then proceeding to play it takes you down a path of, okay, this is different than what's out there. So I think right from the get-go, that album just grabs your attention, gets you curious. It's going to, maybe even be polarizing depending if you're the parent or the child. It's a totally Zeppelin event and decision.
Yeah, it's so, the thing I love about it too is that, so the photograph was taken by Sam Shear. It's from May 6, 1937, the Hindenburg disaster. I'm sorry. Yes. May 6, 1937, took place in Lakehurst, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And like Murph said, to have something like that happen on video, on audio. I mean, even looking at the picture now, the actual photograph, the untouched photograph, it's stunning. It's stunning.
And the famous line,
Oh, the humanity, which if you're a Seinfeld fan, you know about the Newman in the mail truck when his mail truck catches on fire, and he does that little pop culture reference there. But the thing that I like about it that I think is so Zeppelin, and if you're a fan, you get it, is the way that they didn't just slap the photograph on the album. They use like a distorted, kind of like a technical type of thing that they did to kind of mess up the photo so it's not crystal clear. If you Google it, you'll see the crystal clear photo. So I think it's just like Murph said, it's black and white, and it's just a picture of a horrible tragedy. And it's their debut album. I think it's unique on so many levels.
What I find interesting about the album cover, and as you guys mentioned, the history of the Hindenburg and the tragedy that it is a play on what Keith Moon told Jimmy Page when he said he was going to name the band the New Yardbirds. And he says, well, that's going to go down like a Led Zeppelin. And it's kind of a play on that, as old folklore goes, with the relationship between Keith Moon and Jimmy Page. So that's an interesting note on the album cover. The album cover really does draw you in. You have to also think back in those times of 1969. How imagery was very important. You think of the great Beatles records, you think of the Stones records at that time. You really had to have something that stood out to the consumer when they were thumbing through vinyl at the record store. And this certainly does. What's also interesting about this album cover, a little bit of a tidbit on it, is the logo color is different on different prints. There's the red, there's an orange, and there's also a turquoise blue, which is also very rare. I don't know if there was more than like 2,000 made or 1,500 made, but auction houses have made as much as $3,000 on the vinyl with that turquoise blue print. And that is something that I will finally purchase after my son concludes college, because that is my number one on my wish list of vinyl collection, part of my vinyl collection that I want.
Great whale that you're chasing, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's iconic. It's the imagery is, you see this and it's Led Zeppelin. I think it's a brilliant idea, and it makes you wonder though. They couldn't have released this in 1945. They couldn't have released it in the 50s.
Nope.
They had to wait many, many years. Like no one's going to release a Titanic sinking cover in the 30s, right? They need time to go by and to be able to, get away with this kind of imagery. The lighting is fantastic. And I believe, Tom, you actually mentioned who the photographer was that kind of touched this thing up, right?
Mm-hmm. I mentioned, so Sam Shear took the photograph. There was another artist that kind of coordinated the whole artwork.
Okay, so I wasn't sure. His name is George Hardy.
Yes.
And he kind of designed this. I love it. I think it's perfect. Says enough about the band. Boom. Led Zeppelin, top right corner, Atlantic Records, bottom right. It's great imagery, and it gives you like, what the hell's what's in this? Well, we're about to find out what's in it. So this is Led Zeppelin I. It was kind of recorded in September, October of 1968. Olympic Studios there in London. I believe that's in London. Eventually released January 12th. And no, it's not released in 1996. I don't know why that's there. It was released January 12th, 1969. It went number 10 in the US, number 6 in the UK. It went platinum 8 times in the US. It went platinum twice in the UK. It's considered number 44 VH1 greatest albums in 2003. 29 in Rolling Stones in 2003. Then it went to 101 in 2020 when they revised their list. Yep. Here's what I'm thinking. What the fuck was released in those years from 2003 to 2020 that would make this go down to 101? I
Maybe it was one album. It's just Rolling Stone trying to be relevant. Trying to include things that they tell people are great that are not in fact great. Yeah. This album ages like a fine wine. It gets better as the years go by.
Yeah, I can only imagine how many. This is Rolling Stone, a rock and roll magazine. How many hip hop artists and other stuff get thrown in there, right? It's just ridiculous. In these years, I can't think of one album that's better than this.
Well, and like Jay said, like, I mean, we're going to be next in a couple months or next month. This album is going to be 53 years old, and like Jay said, it gets better. I mean, we'll get into some details, some production details, specifically what Jimmy Page and Glenn Johns did to make this album sound the way it is. But this album does not sound like a mid to late 60s British band. You go listen to Cream or The Who or the Beatles or some bands that were pop rock or psychedelic rock or hard rock. The production style, the way that the Jimmy's distortion with his guitars, obviously Bonham. The album was heavy then, and 53 years later, it still rips. I mean, that's why Led Zeppelin's never going away, and that's why I love that about this band.
It also got put in the Rock Grammy Hall of Fame in 2004.
Yep.
If this was released today, when you think of bands like Rival Sons and Dirty Honey, this could be contemporary rock music. This could be modern rock music. And it was 53 fucking years ago that it was released. So, yeah, I mean, it gets better. It does not sound dated. And it's a tremendous album. It's a great beginning to, like I said in the intro, to the invasion of Led Zeppelin on the world.
And if it came out today, Rolling Stone would still probably pan the album like they did back in '69.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rolling Stone. It's true.
So the album was produced by Jimmy Page, and Tom mentioned Glenn John, who I can't picture him going. We talked about when the Eagles issues they had with him, going, yeah, we can rock as much as the Led Zeppelin, yeah. But even Don Henley's like, yeah, I found out real quick that it's no computers or machines that are making John Bonham sound like that. It's called John Bonham.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So he did the engineering. It's on Atlantic Records, and Jimmy pulls out all the stops from his sessions, musicianship, the apprenticeship he did, and how he learned to make this album and all the little things of the recordings and where to put mics and where to do stuff. And I guess Glenn Johns was a childhood friend of his, and the two of them came up together. Just even if he wasn't a part of this, the musicianship is incredible that he did this and the production and stuff, and that gets lost,
Zeus, just looking back and just reading on this album, I mean, it seemed that Page had everything in his head, because when it came time to get in the studio, just how quickly they got this recorded. I mean, I've seen somewhere between 15 and 30 hours it took to record the whole album. Page paid for it out of his own pocket to just get it down, and then put it in the hands of Peter Grant to get it out there and get a label to sign up with them. And just to think of, the total cost was somewhere less than £2,000 from beginning to end. So he knew what he wanted. He found the right people. It sounds as if he, at this point was kind of, a micromanager to get that sound down. And, the results are there. I mean, for them to have that starting in September and then the traveling by November is just a testament to what he wanted, how he wanted it to sound, and just how, you could say catching lightning on a bottle, but as we're going to say with these upcoming albums, they did it more than once. So I don't think that phrase would properly apply.
Yeah. And we talked about the production and how the album sounds just raw and fresh, dirty, heavy. And that's due to Page. I mean, he specifically really minimize the amount of overdubs that were going to be in this recording, because when they played it live, which he knew that they were going to, he wanted it to be faithful to the recording. He didn't want Zeppelin to be a studio band like so many bands are. They sound fantastic in the studio, then they sound kind of average at best on stage. He didn't want that. And Zeus, you hinted at it too, the tricks that he did with the microphones, whether it was putting them far away from Bonham's bass drum or putting them far away from his guitar amp and creating those sounds and those dynamics. It's just to think that this was done in 68, 69 is just stunning.
Let's talk about a young Robert Plant on this album.
Mm-hmm.
Who sounded like Robert Plant prior to this? I mean, this was a young man channeling blues greats in the U.S. Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and artists like that. I mean, this was a kid who was doing this, and a lot of people think that he blew out his voice after this album, and his voice never sounded the same. And I agree with that in some way, because if you listen to the other albums after this, his voice does different, but his voice and the way they record him sounds full. It sounds like, man, I mean, they talk about Bonham's power on the drums, Plant's power on the vocals on this album. In my opinion, this is his best vocal performance on any Led Zeppelin album.
Well, it's great that we have three other opinions, because I'm pretty sure they're all not going to be the same. That's great. Then I guess we have a lot to talk about, because we're starting off with the first track. Everyone knows what this track is, and let's hear it.
Bad Times. 2 minutes and 46 seconds of We Are Led Zeppelin. We are going to blow your ears and mind. This song got me thinking of what debut album's debut song could top this. And I was thinking of Welcome to the Jungle. I was thinking of Running with the Devil. But even in those songs, it's kind of a build up before it kicks in. I mean, Needle on the record or your CD, right out of the gate, that riff, and it just starts. And then you've got a little cowbell, and just all four of them are contributing in 2 minutes and 46 seconds. You've got John Paul Jones with a little bass at the 1 minute mark. And I felt like this was the right song to start the album. Zeus, I know you mentioned about on the Greek, your time's going to come, but it's, we're in, we're out. You've got 8 songs to follow, but in my opinion, it was just one of the greatest debut songs. And you could say it's your debut album, and we've talked about John Paul Jones had been around for a while, session player. Page had been with the New Yardbirds, but I'm still going to say debut album, debut song. I mean, for me, it's hard to find one that actually could top that.
Yeah, Murph, you nailed it, because I kind of had that in my notes as well, that it's like We Are Led Zeppelin. Like you said, Runner with the Devil and Welcome to the Jungle are iconic debut album, debut songs, but they do have that slow buildup. It takes you a while to figure out what you're hearing. What is this new band? Like you said, you hit Good Times, Bad Times right away. You know what you're in for. You are in for something that you have never heard before. Between Bonham with those ridiculous triplets that he's doing on the bass drum that people were obsessed with, thinking that he had a double bass and he didn't do it. A chorus that is catchy, melodic, sing along. John Paul Jones, who we haven't really talked about him much, and unfortunately, he's kind of like the lost member of this band when you talk about Plant's vocals and Page's guitar theatrics and Bonham's dominance, in for rightly so. But what John Paul Jones does in this song with some of his bass licks, it's amazing. And this song, to me, classic Robert Plant. Singing when he needs to sing, wailing when he needs to wail. It's just a fantastic song. It's iconic for a reason. And it's a stunning way to start off a career, a debut album.
How about the crescendo of Plant's vocals in that first line that he just introduces himself. He sings it's just a great, between the drums of Bonham and the vocals of Plant in that sequence is just undeniable of how great that they were going to become and how great this album is. I love the story, and I mentioned this in our introduction episode, that Steve Perry tells about driving in Northern California, listening to the radio and hearing Good Times, Bad Times for the first time. We talk about the power of John Bonham's drums, but back in 1969, this is recorded in 68, so you can say 68 as well. No other drummer, no other band had that. had that power, had that thump, had that locomotive on the back end of your songs in the rhythm section. And, Steve Perry tells the story like he didn't believe what he was hearing. He had to pull over. He's like, I'd never heard anything so powerful in rock music before. And that's what really, you talk about the first song on their first album with their history. That's what separates Zeppelin from all the other bands that came before, and then the bands that came after, and the bands that tried to mimic them after that. That song solely has been, the drums on that song has been mimicked or tried to sound like that ever since that song came out, ever since this album. We'll get more into the songs. But to also piggyback on your thoughts about Running with the Devil and Welcome to the Jungle, every great debut album, the first song sets the tone. And the first song grabs you. And like Welcome to the Jungle and Running with the Devil grab you. Good Times, Bad Times grabs you and doesn't let you go. It takes you in, it holds you hostage. And it is the perfect way to start the career of Led Zeppelin.
Good Times, Bad Times, written by Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, John Bonham, Robert Plant. It was released. It was the only single release. So it went up to number 80 on the US charts. I don't think they issued it in the UK. And the B-side was Communication Breakdown. John Paul Jones says he came up the riff on the Hammond organ, and he said it was the most difficult one he ever wrote. So this great guitar opening stuff came from a Hammond organ, which is very kind of like, what? And our good friend of the show and fellow Patreon podcaster, Carmine Apiece, is where that Bonham got that little triplet thing. And then there's some great stories about how he asked him, like, where'd you get that? And he's like, I got that from you. It's like, yeah, but I didn't do that like that. I used this. And he's like, well, I did this way. And they were both amazed. Carmine was amazed at how he came up with it. And he did say that he thought that the riff came from Tim Bogart's bass line. And he's like, yeah, one of them told me they got it from there. I don't think that's accurate, but that's okay. Tom already talked about the triplets on the single bass drum. I'm not a drummer, but from all I've read, and there's a great book by Greg Prato on Bonham's drumming from all drummers. That's all people talk about, like how revolutionary, how different it is, and how exactly, like, just not the loudness of him and not just the groove. It's just the technical aspect of it, how he could handle that stuff. Jimi Hendrix likened it to castanets. Mm-hmm. And then this is Jimmy was using his Fender Telecaster back then at this time. He wasn't into the Gibson yet, and he was using the Dragon, the one, that psychedelic looking thing. And then, Jimmy positioned his amps strategically to get that live feel when they recorded this. Oh, there's also a Rolling Stones song that came out around the same time.
Yes.
With the same title.
Yep.
And I believe they use like a comma there. I tried listening to it. And the big part of that is I tried listening to it. It's just what a difference, which I'm not sure if that was Tommy or Murph. Like, can you imagine like the Beatles trying to do this shit?
No.
Like, nobody was pulling this crap off back then. They all must have been like, the closest band I could think of maybe was the Who trying to come up with this kind of shit. But even then, they'd probably be like, what is this?
Yep.
I don't think anybody could come out. It's revolutionary. They didn't really play this live, which I'm surprised about.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too. Yeah.
They played it on Celebration Day. I think they opened Celebration Day with it, if I'm not mistaken, which is very rare. Originally, the song was going to called A Man I Know. I don't know where they would have gotten that title from, but that's what they were originally going to do. It was written at the beginning of their first sessions they did on the album. Again, Jimmy says John Paul Jones came up with the riff and that he came up with the chorus. But then Jimmy complains that there were some mistakes made towards the end of the song. He called it dodgy guitar phrases between 228 and 232. If you listen, I don't know, some guitar people that can pick that shit up. I'm like, I never noticed any mistakes on that. But that's what he complains about. And then, there's Robert harmonizing with himself. Boston band Godsmack covers this song.
And I'll tell you right now,
Go ahead.
I'm a mild Godsmack fan. Their version is awesome. I like it. I like it. I'm not going to tell you that to run out and go, if you're a Zeppelin fan, go listen to it. It might be because I'm a Godsmack fan. I like it. I think it's good. First of all, I give him credit for having the balls to cover Zeppelin, because not many people do that and do it well.
I am anti-Zeppelin covers, by the way.
That's okay. I got you.
I love when other bands try to cover Zeppelin, because they either can like really destroy it, or they can hit it out of the park.
Or they do something unique with it and make it like memorable and creative. Yeah. But Zeus, like you said about them not playing it, like very rarely playing this in their set list. I'm getting back to Murph's original point, which, we're all jumping on that with the Running with the Devil and Welcome to the Jungle. And for us as a Kiss podcast, even Strutter off the Kiss debut album, the opening song off your debut album usually is a staple of your set list.
Yeah.
And for them to not ever play it, I find that especially it's a quick song, it's an easy song, and it's a heavy, hard rocking song. You would think it would be a no-brainer to keep it in their set list. So I found that stunning when we were doing some research.
You can relax because you've heard it, Tom, because it's also on another artist's album. Good friend of the show, Ace Frehley, performs this, and it's on his Origins too. And we got to hear him play this live, and it sounds like this.
Do it.
In the days of my youth, I was told what it means to be a man.
He sounds just like Plant.
Let me tell you right now, Zeus just sounded better than Ace. When we saw Ace in September, when he played that song off his Origins album, me and Zeus just looked at each other and burst out laughing. It was worse than drunk Kiss karaoke on the cruise.
Yeah, I think Jericho texted us. And he's like, holy shit, what is Ace thinking about playing that song? And he repeated, and days of my youth.
It was horrible.
Like, what makes Ace think he can do Robert Plant?
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But for my own personal listening to the song, I like the opening bam. Boom.
Oh, yeah.
And then the little drum things going off. I like Robert's lower register on the second verse. Like he lowers his voice and does that little ooh voice he does on the second verse. It's fucking great.
Well, that's a huge Donovan influence on that song right there.
Oh, I'm
Donovan.
surprised.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Sunshine Superman.
Great song. It's a great song.
John Paul Jones worked on that.
Yeah.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
Tidbits galore.
And then the blistering solo. And then another bass and guitar playing between Robert's lines. And then you start noticing all the drum shit going on. I didn't know what a fucking triplet is. Then I started trying to pick up on it. I don't know. It's just fucking Bonham being nuts on the drums as usual. And then there's just, at the end, it's just the beginning of what is my whole love affair of the Jimmy and Bonzo. Which one do I like better?
Yep.
Do I like the guitar or the drum better on this song? And it's just back and forth. On this one, they're just doing different stuff. You can pick up on the drums. You can pick up when the guitar is playing. You can pick up on Robert's voice, and you can pick up on that little bass line going on. It's just a great song, and it's a great way to open up the album.
Yeah. And before we move on to the next track, I just want to say one more thing. So, because it's kind of a blanket statement about the album in general. And I say this a lot when we do our album review crew or our Kiss album review episodes. Listening to an album like this with headphones on, it's insane. It's insane. And you really see what Page did with the production. There are so many little things going on in the background. Like we talked about, like some of the bleeding going on over vocals with guitars and just different things that's constantly happening. It's a treat to listen to.
And the transfer from one ear to another, as you guys.
Yes.
Amazing.
Tom, I thought you were going to say you'd like listening to this song. You were going to add that you want to hear more Ace Frehley cover songs of Zeppelin.
I want to hear Ace do a Zeppelin specific covers album.
No, you don't. No one wants to hear that. I want to hear Zeus do Ace Frehley doing Zeppelin instead.
Well, instead, we're going to go to a folk song classic done Led Zeppelin style. Track number 2.
I'm Gonna Leave You. Not Babe, I'm Going to Leave You. It's Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. For an album that has 4 blues-oriented songs, for a shift from the opener that we all just spoke about to a folk is an indication of Zeppelin is going to throw all their influences at you when they see fit. And I think for someone listening to the album for the first time is probably just at this point going, what is this band? And then looking at the history, if you're familiar with it, it's a cover of a Joan Baez song from 1962 that she took from someone else back in the 50s. And this is a song that is known for a number of things. The echo that is known to be on a couple of the Zeppelin songs, the guitar music, I think there's like a Spanish guitar that's used in it. And in my opinion, this is just a beautiful, heartfelt, heartache of a song. And I'm probably going to ruin it for you guys a bit when I say that when I've listened to this song over the years, that I felt that when Plant sings the "Feels good to have you back again," he sounds a bit like Robin Gibb of the Bee Gees.
Wow.
So
Okay.
next time you hear that,
Okay.
with the high pitch, you may start thinking about Night Fever, and I'm sorry for it, but I hear it.
Hey, I'm a Bee Gees guy. I'm a fan.
I know
don't
you
care.
are. I know you are. But
You both have been suspended from this podcast. for
I'm
mentioning the
like-
Bee Gees.
okay.
I'm
Okay.
shaking my head right now.
I'm a Bee.
Where
I
are
like
we
the Bee
going
Gees.
with this?
Okay.
What the fuck?
Jive
Nope.
talking. Sorry.
You know that Gordon Lightfoot,
Yes.
this third album there?
Well, think about it. We've dropped Donovan, BG. Like it's
Donovan was a
everything here.
contemporary singer back in that day. The Bee Gees, got tight underwear and are a disco band.
Oh wow! I urge you to watch the documentary on the Bee Gees if you
I
think
heard
that's all they are.
I did hear that's actually good.
Yes.
It is.
Then again,
Anyways.
Bee Gees.
whatever.
So back to Babe. I'm going to leave you. So
They got a lot of chest hair.
there's nothing wrong with that. So does Paul Stanley. So, Babe, I'm going to leave you. Murph said it perfectly. So you go from the short, kick-ass, up-tempo rock song of Good Times, Bad Times to this. And this is why I think this album, a lot of times you have conversations with friends and it's like, if I wanted to play, a Metallica album for somebody who's never heard Metallica, what album should I play them? If I wanted to play a Zeppelin album for somebody who didn't know Zeppelin, this might be the album that I would lean towards, strictly because, Murph, you said it, they're kind of checking off all the boxes here at once. This song is just spectacular on so many levels. It starts off with an unbelievably beautiful acoustic picking by Jimmy Page. And then when the song kicks into gear, I mean, it's like a sledgehammer with Bonham's drums and the guitar and Plant just, again, wailing. And I think this kind of hints at what I said earlier at the beginning where, this isn't Cream. This isn't even The Who, because not only is this band rocking out in this song, but you feel Plant's passion and emotion in this. His vocals are just so amazing in this song. And one of my favorite things about this song is that just when you think it's over, there's about another 3 minutes left in it. And that's just like, holy shit. Like these guys are not, they're going to give me a 6.5 minute epic here. And reading about Zeppelin in this song specific, it's the first time you hear it because in their discography, it's the first time they do it. You hear a lot of critics or authors using the term light and shade, where they do this with, like Over the Hills and Far Away, where the song goes between the soft, light acoustic and then the band just crashing in full force. And, this is just one of the perfect examples of Zeppelin doing this right here.
Jay, before you begin, just want to ask you a quick thing. You mentioned the time in the song. Do you feel that this song needed any of that Sonny Pooney editing? The song is too long.
Nope,
the song
never.
is too long.
Never.
So you didn't feel like it went on past
Nope.
up to 6 minutes?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. There wasn't 1 minute of this one. There wasn't one moment of this song where I said I think this song should have ended. I can't say the same for the rest of the album. Spoiler alert.
Babe, I'm going to leave you. The first time I heard this song was on MTV Unplugged, and it was performed by Great White,
Wow.
who did a tremendous version of this song. And this was before I got into Zeppelin, but as I got into Zeppelin after my cousin came, during that one summer with that bag full of bootlegs, I remember listening to this and comparing the cover that Great White did, and I know I just mentioned that I'm anti Zeppelin covers. I really
stick to your point, one way or the other. Can't go with both.
I'm getting to my point, Murph. I'm getting to my point. But this is one of the few covers, and maybe because I heard it before I heard the original, that I actually do appreciate. Jack Russell does a great, I don't want to say impression, but he does Robert Plant justice on that cover from that MTV Unplugged version.
Their Great White cover. They're great. If I can just quickly jump in, Jay, excuse me. They're the Great White Zeppelin cover album. I know you said you don't like when people cover Zeppelin. Amazing. Fantastic cover album. I do agree with that. But we won't get into the Zeppelin tribute album, which was just disastrous. But the Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, again, was written by Joan Baez. This was really the first song that Zeppelin took from another artist and made it their own. Throughout their catalog, they did this over and over again, where, yes, the songs were written by somebody else and performed before. And some people will say that they stole songs, which in some cases we'll get into it as we dive more into these discussions later on. There is that element that Zeppelin did kind of rip off a lot of people, but everybody does rip off people. But what this also did was it allowed the Zeppelin listener to absorb their music differently, because it set up all those songs on Zeppelin II, all those songs on Zeppelin III, Zeppelin IV, and beyond. You mentioned Light and Shade, Tom, but this was really that first moment, because the rest of the album is pretty much a bunch of bangers, that just, rock out and blues numbers and just great tunes. This was really a different style that they had to put on this album, because if I think they did a whole album of the good times, bad times, and the other songs, I don't know if Zeppelin 2 or Zeppelin 3, I don't know if they could have done that without this song. You know what I'm saying? Exactly.
It set up the expectation of the Zeppelin fan and the Zeppelin listener. And as they got deeper into their catalogs, especially Zeppelin 3 and Zeppelin 4, there was a lot more folk influences on those albums. There's moments on House of the Holy and Physical Graffiti, and of course Zeppelin 2. So also a year later, Chicago, in the song 25 or 624, blatantly rips off the riff that Zeppelin plays on Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You.
Wow. So a Chicago reference now too. All right,
we're getting there. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, written by Ann Brennan, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant. Jimmy Page heard Joan Baez's version, played it for Robert during their first meeting at Page's house. Originally, when the song was released on the Zeppelin One, it said traditional and then arranged by Jimmy Page. And then after 1990, they added, I think I'm saying it, Brennan, I think is her name.
Yep.
And she got a nice big payment, apparently, of royalties for not being there. And this will happen quite a few times. We'll be repeating this throughout the Zeppelin Chronicles. Apparently, this isn't one of Jay's collections that he wants to get. There is a collectible promotional EP in '69 with this as side A and side B being Dazed and Confused. It sold, somebody had like a bunch of copies of it and sold them each for like $500. You can imagine what it go now in the eBay era, what those things could go for. Not very typical of the hard rock album to go right from hard rock to a folk rock kind of song, but Zeppelin can certainly pull this thing off. I guess Jimmy was playing this prior to him being in Zeppelin. He would back up Marianne Faithfull, by the way, who does a fucking better job on as Tears Go By, the Rolling Stone hit. Oh, it's a beautiful version. And she was hot at that time. Woo! They stopped playing this song live after '69, but I think Robert Steele was playing this song live in his solo performance. He really likes this.
Yep.
He was still plays this. Yeah. And you talked about the bleeding, Tom, and this is one of the few times you'll hear it. If those who want to listen, at 141, you can hear Robert's like ghostly voice saying, I can hear it calling me, bleeding Mike part into the song. Jimmy says he used a more fingerstyle method on this song than the original, and then he put a little flamenco burst into it. I tried counting. I think there was 8 times in that beginning. Baby, 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 baby,
oh, yeah.
baby, baby, I don't want to leave. I think it was 8 times. And I thought someone counted, they said it was about 30 times he says the word babe or baby. I guess in 68, Jimmy recorded a version of this song with Steve Winwood, which was never released.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a different version than the original. I mean, I know that's where they get their basses. They just did a updated version of it, Baez's acoustic version versus this heavy guitar version. Then there's that little bit of a slide guitar, which I'm a sucker for slide guitar at 208. I like the little haunting acoustic music, and Roberts, he's using that very achy voice, that aching.
Oh, it's amazing.
He's like all like, passionate about it. And then what's with fucking Zeppelin? Or it's a British thing, but it's mostly Zeppelin with the word ramble. Every time I'm like
Robert Plant, they love that lyric. Ramble. They love that word.
Until fucking like Mark Slaughter and Vinnie Vincent thought they'd be cool and threw it on one of their songs.
Well, if they want to be Robert Plant.
Yeah.
And Vinnie Vincent has a ramble on a song?
Yeah. I think it's on Love Kills. Or is it on Time to That Time of Year? It's on one of those two.
Correct me if I'm wrong too, Zeus. I believe Winger has used that word in a song too.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So what I'm going to ask all the listeners to do is I'm going to ask you to keep a flow chart of every band we have named so far. And if you can play 6 Degrees of Led Zeppelin. Okay.
Hip Winger and Vinnie Vincent.
And Chicago in the last 5 minutes.
3 artists that would
and Donovan.
4, 5 that I would not call the most masculine bands out there.
That's true.
But anyways,
I think we should all leave this recording using ramble somewhere in the workplace this week. Zeus, you can use it. Your Honor, I think you're rambling.
I think you're rambling. I got to ramble.
I've got to ramble on. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That Robert scream, I can hear it calling me. Oh my God, huh?
Yeah.
Now that's Robert Plant at his best. And then the Babe, I'm going to come in by the full band. The solo's got this little Spanish thing going on. Oh yeah. It's just, I could go on and on. It's a great version. They make it their own because anything that Zeppelin does, nobody can say, oh yeah, I think of that song. No. Everyone thinks of the Zeppelin version. Yep. There's a reason for that. Well, let's go to what I think will be Tom's favorite song.
So we've gone from hard rock to folk to blues, and arguably the second song in a row where there is a discussion of, did they steal it? Did they give proper credit at the time? A nod to the blues. And if you look back and check up on the history of it, there is some discussion of whether this song was taken from the Jeff Beck group, where Mr. Page says, I don't recall, but apparently Mr. Jones was part of the recording session, so it adds a little spice to the discussion. But this song actually, and I'll mention this on another song coming up, this is something where when the song was being played during our college years, Tom would chime in with little harmonies of his own.
Wow,
specifically,
I don't remember this.
The harmonica section.
Wow.
When I apologize to the listeners for my attempt at mimicking the sound, but when I hear the song, I think of Tommy with the harmonica, and Robert Plant does the
Zeus was talking about that.
Tommy would do that from time to time and get a chuckle out of us because it just, it stands out. But, it's just a nod to the blues. It's a song that I've never skipped over. But, and I would say on an album such as this, there isn't any skippers, but this is one that I probably would not be seeking out and looking to play. It introduced me to the blues. I didn't know what the blues was at the time. But listening to the other songs on this, obviously they have a deep influence and appreciation for that period. And, this is their nod to Willie Dixon and Muddy Waters and others.
Yeah, Murph, you said it's Zeppelin. So, Zeus, getting back to your original question about Babe, I'm going to leave you. This song is too long. It's too long, and worse than that, it's too goddamn slow. I mean, this is like ridiculously, almost like it's like an accident. It's too slow. Now, I don't mind the blues. I don't mind that kind of stuff, but this sounds like it's played at like the wrong speed. It's so slow. And Zeppelin, they do a good job with some slow songs. There's another one on this album that we'll talk about shortly. That being said, musically, what's going on with it is really interesting. When John Paul Jones comes in with the organ solo, yep. Okay, then you have the harmonica solo. You have Jimmy Page. You got the call and answer with Robert Plant in the guitar. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff going on with the song, so it makes it interesting, and you want to listen to it. But it's so painfully slow. Sometimes it can be kind of a tractor pull, and it's Zeppelin. Zeppelin doesn't do anything bad to me, but like Murph said, it's not a song I seek out. I'll put it that way. But what they do, there's some really interesting and cool things going on in this song. And you're right. The fact that Jimmy Page claims that he doesn't know that the Jeff Beck group recorded this is complete horseshit, because like Murph said, John Paul Jones was doing it. So settle down, Jimmy Page.
Well, it's not the only Jeff Beck connection on this album, and we'll get to that later on.
Yep.
But this is a great Willie Dixon cover. I love this tune. I mean, to me, there's only a Led Zeppelin song can never be too long, in my opinion. The Jimmy Page tone on this is absolutely incredible. Plant's vocals are absolutely incredible. Again, this was an album that when they first formed, they wanted to get something out there. This is the first of 2 blues covers on this album. And, being that Page, Plant, and the whole band was so influential or influenced so much by the blues, it's not a surprise that they would choose a Willie Dixon song in this place. You Shook Me. It's just, to me, again, Good Times, Bad Times to me is still a power blues song. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You is a folk song with a lot of blues elements, and it just continues on with the blues to really showcase who they were influenced by. And I don't think they do it better than You Shook Me.
You Shook Me, written by Willie Dixon and J.B. Lenore. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's actually a 1962 blues song from Muddy Waters. Willie Dixon was his bass player, and he wrote the song, but it's a Muddy Waters track. Robert adds the Robert Johnson line from Stones, In My Passway. I have a bird that whistles, I have a bird that sing. Jones on the organ I just love him in organ. I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah.
And Robert does a fucking, I don't know, like the fat guy from Blues Traveler harmonica on it. But I didn't know he had it really in him when you really think about it. He does a great job. Now, it was released 4 months after Jeff Beck's version. I didn't know he had it. They're like, dude, you accompanied us on tour when we were in the United States touring, and you were there with us for months, and I played it every night live. What the fuck are you talking about? It is hilarious. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And you don't think at any point John Paul Jones goes, hey, do you want me to play like this? Because, when I did it in Jeff Beck's album a couple months ago, I did it this way. Do you want me to do it the same way? Like, no, I don't. Oh, you did? Oh, I didn't know that. I have to. It's just nonsense. It's beyond nonsense. What makes it even more nonsensical is the fact that it's like, dude, all these other accusations just pile up. Yep. I mean, it just makes it like if you admitted some, yeah, I admitted that one. Yeah, I took this. Yeah, I'll give him credit over here. Yeah, but this one I didn't. But denying everything just makes him look stupid.
Wasn't me.
Yeah, I looked right in your face.
Wasn't me.
Maybe it wasn't you. Yeah, I just.
But you're right. The Led Zeppelin detractors, and there are unfortunately a lot of them out there. That's what they say.
Yep, they deny everything. Like, right? It's just stupid. Jimmy plays this with the Black Crowes in 1999. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Oh, I love that album.
Yeah. They lip synced the song on Beat Club on German TV, March 27, 1969. I got to find that. Jimmy does that backwards echo, which I heard because they on some of the books that I've been reading, they tell you exactly where it is. And you can kind of hear it at the 5:38 mark. Glyn Johns, I guess, apparently told him, you can't do it. He's like, I fucking do it. I've done it before. Did it on a song called, I think it was 10 Little Indians by the Yardbirds. He goes, I've done that. And he told him he couldn't. And then he was like, fuck you, here it is. And I guess he did it. He pulled it off. And it's just like a quick little thing. And it's like, what was the big deal about doing that? I don't know. But apparently he was able to do it. And they made it a big issue, a bone of contention between them. There's another couple little things that I don't know if you pick up, and I picked up on it because one of the books I read is this fantastic fucking monstrosity called Led Zeppelin and All the Songs. The story behind every track by Jean-Michel Gedson and Philippe Margotin, along with Led Zeppelin Expanded Edition, all the albums, all the songs, Martin Popoff. But this Zeppelin, the first one, mentions this. It is fucking incredible. There's a part in each part of this song where there's laughter. You can hear them laughter and laughing in it. And they're like, I don't know if they're amused by the lyrics or something. It's at the 146 mark and also at the birds that sing part. I don't know if they got a kick out of that, the lyrically. But I love the harmonica, and I can't believe how good he does it. Robert does a great job on that. But Tom, you're kind of right. I don't know. It works for me, but he sounds like he's like a slow, like drunk or drugged up Robert. I've got a bird that whistles. Like
it sounds like a song that could have been playing in the bar scene in Weird Science.
Fuck off. I have that in here.
Yes.
I have that in here.
And that's why we're partners.
I have that in here. Oh, holy shit.
Every damn night.
On the telephone. And I love that they do 3 solos in a row. The Hammond solo, the harmonica solo, and then the guitar. And I'm like trying to pick up, like, is that the harp? Well, it's the guitar part.
Yep.
I love that shit. Love that. And then what Murph is, I think, trying to refer to, and I told you about it, and you're like, what part? I'm like, listen for it. Then one day,
and then I heard
last week, I think you texted me like, yep, I got it. It's at the 3:39 mark. There's some like harmonica solo going on, and then he goes, Sounds like Barney from The Simpsons. I don't know what he's doing there in between his harmonica thing. And that 508, and I put 527, that you shook me all night. It's almost like a parody, like how long he stretches out that note. It's like someone told Stephen Michael from Growing Up Rock, hey, why don't you sing this lyric? You want me to sing this lyric?
Yep.
It's just, whoa. I don't know about you guys. I fucking love this song. I just love it. I think I don't turn it off. I look for it when I play Zeppelin One. I don't know. They
One of the
just know a way to do a good blues song.
Yeah. A weird factoid researching this is, so Page always plays that Fender Telecaster that he has. Mm-hmm. But for this song, when you think of the Flying V, you think of like 80s hair metal, like Vinnie Vincent.
Or you think of Randy Rhoads.
Oh, yeah, okay, or Randy Rhoads. That's what Page used on this.
Yeah.
And he used it because somebody was trying to sell it to him. So he's like, all right. But it's just, what a weird, the slowest, bluesiest Zeppelin song with a Flying V being used. I thought that was really interesting.
One of the things with Plant, and Jay, you had mentioned it earlier, this song here, it almost seemed like Plant hadn't grown into his voice from the screaming perspective. When I think of Whole Lotta Love, and it's just that visceral screaming in Led Zeppelin II on this particular album and in this particular song, it just sounds like he may not be at that full maturity with his voice yet and just doesn't hit the level of screaming that he does on the very next album.
Good point.
Okay, so next track, we're going to go watch a great movie from the 90s.
Dazed and Confused. When I think of this song, I think of dark, trippy, scary, which could be a reference to the movie as well. This song, over time, pulled me really into the band to just do research, find out more about it. When you listen to the song, you know, all right, it's a 6-minute song, it's great, but then you start going into the bootlegs or the live albums. And when I think of this song now, I immediately think of the version on the BBC sessions from the 1997 album. 18-minute song with the bow, just everything on full display, the creativity of Page. But on this album, what I think of on the studio version, besides Page, this is the first song where I really hear Bonham, his pounding, and it kicks in around the 2-minute mark. And then you got the solo further on. But, after the first 3 songs where we've talked about, they're each very distinctive, this leads you into kind of, where they are going to get dark. Maybe this is where some people think of their, heavy rock. But, it must be said also, it's another song where there were legal ramifications or, courtroom appearances based on who created the song and who deserved proper credit. But with that being said, that this song here, another 6-minute song, but much more to my liking than the previous one.
Yeah, originally written by Jake Holmes. Murph kind of hinted at some of the issues again with songwriting credits, etc. But a song like "Dazed and Confused," certain bands have like iconic songs, like you associate a band with a song. "Dazed and Confused." I mean, this song, I don't know how you could be a fan of rock music. Yeah, there's some psychedelic stuff going on here, but what Bonham is doing, what Plant is doing, what's happening with the breakdown in the middle with the noise, then the song starts to pick up again. Bonham goes off. Murph hinted at it, the rolls that Bonham is doing, just absolutely pounding. This is a song too where I think Plant's voice again is doing something different. Again, like, we're on the 4th song and every song is so different musically, vocally, even, style wise. To me, this song is just insanely awesome. It no matter what version it is, it's never too long. And that includes, the song remains the same when it's like pushing almost 30 minutes, when they just going off and doing all kinds of kind of crazy musical acrobatics with it. I just love it. It gives the band room to just shine and do their own thing and just go crazy. And I find it interesting too that the band was asked to contribute to the soundtrack to the movie Dazed and Confused, to write music for it. Jimmy Page said absolutely. Robert Plant said nope, not doing it. So again, you got Robert Plant being like, no, I don't want to have anything to do with anything like that. But this song right here, love it. Absolutely love everything that's going on here.
30-minute live version on Song Remains the Same. I've got bootlegs where it's upwards to 50 minutes.
I'll take it. I love it.
A medley. This song was the centerpiece for years during, especially the early years of their touring. And it also featured the famous imagery of Jimmy Page and the violin bow going back and forth with his amp and sending the cosmic tones out into the audience and being hit like by lightning. It was a magical moment whenever they did this song in concert. It was a song that people start to really identify. You want to talk about good times, bad times, and Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. This song, especially early on, was how fans identified with Zeppelin on this album. This was pretty much the most popular song when this album came out, especially live. People wanted to hear this live song. Like Murph said, there's also some legal issues that this song ran into, as well as being accused of stealing or lifting the song from another blues artist. But the lyrics are great. I'll get into that later. The lyrics are more or less an education for a young man. And this song is even though it's trippy and it has a little bit of doom in it, doom and gloom, it does have a redeeming uplift to it, like in the middle of the song, where it really kind of comes together with Page playing a lead out of some of the gloomier parts. So I enjoy this song immensely, and especially live when they do blues medleys or a bunch of songs in the middle of it. This song really does, to me, especially the early years, is one of the pillars of Led Zeppelin.
Dazed and Confused, written by Jake Holmes, not to confuse with John Holmes. That's somebody else. So Jake Holmes wrote this. He was like some guy that used to do jingles or something. He wrote this in 1967 on his debut pop album, Above Ground Sound of Jake Holmes. They say it's about an acid trip. He says, no, it's about the effects of a girl's indecision on a relationship. Whatever, buddy. Whatever. The guy opened up for the Yardbirds, where the Yardbirds heard it, and then they decided to do their own version. They never released it until after, years after the Yardbirds had broken up. And they're like, oh shit, we have stuff with Jimmy Page on it. Let's release this live album. And they called it on the live album, I'm Confused. The Zepp version got them sued, as we talked about. In the 80s, he tried to contact Jimmy Page going, wait, what the hell are you doing with this? I got no response, as always. And then he ended up filing suit and then settling it. So now it says Jimmy Page inspired by Jake Holmes. But I've seen others that says just Jake Holmes. I don't know. Jimmy plays the Telecaster on this with his famous bow. We all, you guys had mentioned it as obviously already. Robert wrote and changed the lyrics. Couldn't get credit for it because he had his contractual relationship with CBS Records. So he never got credit for it, but he made it a little bit more bluesy than was previously written. They performed this live more than any other song in their catalog, 440 times, more than 100 more than the second most played live song, which was
Whole Lot of Love.
Correctamundo.
Yep.
Jimmy says he learned how to play the violin stuff from session violinist David McCollum Sr., who first gave him the suggestion, hey, you can play the guitar with the bow, and then he decided to use it. Wasn't the first to put it on a record, but that's who said he gave him the idea. Tommy already mentioned the soundtrack, and wouldn't that have been great to have a couple of Zeppelin songs on there? But I do like that soundtrack with the mixed artist on there.
It's amazing. There's actually two parts of that soundtrack. They actually released a second version with all the other songs that never made it onto the first one. It's like 60s, 70s classic rock, like greatest hits. It's amazing.
Yep. And then again, 204 and 215. You can hear the bleeding again of Robert's voice on something else.
So cool. Yep.
The lyrics are what you would call now misogynistic, and like a lot of these lyrics on this album are. But for me, the trippy opening, Robert's powerful vocals, and then after the first part in that first break, and then the Bonham drumming right before the solo takes off. Oh my God, is just
amazing,
insane. Yep. And then the solo comes out after. All this starts after the bow stuff. Like you hear that weird shit going on. But you can see when Jimmy's guitar solo goes off on this, you've already heard the touch on a few other tracks already, and you'll hear it on some others. But now you also get the speed of which he has, and that guitar he is flying on that solo. Mm-hmm. In the rhythm section, even during that solo, if you listen to what Bonham and JPJ are doing in the background, you're still fucking amazed. And then it picks up in the drums, and then all of a sudden, boom, right back to the verses again. And it's just so trippy. And then after those verses come back, the last few lines, every fucking line, Bonzo is destroying it with these incredible drum fills.
It's insane.
Yep. There's so many songs that I can't explain it. If you're like listening to Zeppelin, especially on headphones, how are you not doing like air drumming?
Oh yeah.
Bang. Like, and then bang on this. I can't help it. There's no other drummer that makes me ever want to do that. Maybe one song here and there, but there's nothing like John Bonham that makes you want to air drum to everything. it's just incredible. And it doesn't distract from the song. It adds to it. It's never like, dude, shut that fucking drummer off. Like, It is just incredible stuff. And then you got him going nuts. You got Jimmy going nuts and the bass picking up. And then what a way to crash and just end. It is, everybody talks about it. It's their kind of like artistic, I don't know.
Their magnum
display.
opus.
Yeah, you could kind of say that. I know Stairway gets the stuff, but for me, like Dazed and Confused is just whoa. Look at this band perform. Listen to the singing. Listen to the bassist, the drummer, and the guitar player, and tell me you have better artists that can perform this way. You can't take out one of them and then plug somebody in and say, oh yeah, they can do it. You can't. You need all four. So let's take the album, as we did in the old days, flip it on over. Side 2.
Your time is gonna come. So after the first 4 songs of side A, side 1, the listener is introduced to the second side with this organ introduction that if you don't like John Paul Jones after side 1, you are, and if you're not a fan after the intro, then I don't know what's wrong with you. I love this. I can't believe, as someone that went to Catholic school and hearing an organ, I'm thinking about church, but this intro just immediately pulls me in. Kind of reminds me of Deeper Shade of Pale. But this song here is, once again, brings me back to college, the memories of early 90s, even though the song came out in the late 70s. Girls that we hung out with sang "I Will Survive." This was our throw it back in their face. Well, your time is going to come, because this song is someone who has been hurt, has been mistreated, and as it says, your time is going to come. And once again, Mr. Gelati has done some songs on this over the years where he would do the lying, cheating, farting, and we would all fill in from there. This song here, all 4 are contributing vocally. I think it is interesting that this is the one song where Page provided the lyrics, which is kind of surprising. It doesn't seem like, after coming out of Dazed, Confused, and some of the songs on side 1, that Page would put pen to paper and come up with some of these lyrics. And just you have this just really powerful song. And one of the things that I personally like about it is how they fade out at the end. So you got the organ at the beginning, and then it's fading out at the end. And just beginning to end, this song is just always meant a lot to me. And it is usually the one that I will go look to play first when pulling out this album on iTunes.
Yeah, the organ intro, you love it, but my favorite part of the song is that moment when Bonham just crashes right into the song. I mean, one of the greatest punches in the face ever, because you're like, oh, this beautiful organ, where are they going here? Then boom. But then it pulls back, because then you got Jimmy Page doing some amazing acoustic work. And then you're like, okay, this song is so different. Again, a different song from the rest of the album. They're doing something completely different. It's more accessible. it's a little bit poppier. It's more of your verse, chorus, verse. You know, it's not the craziness of Dazed and Confused or the slowness of You Shook Me. It's much more accessible, and I think that's why it's a fan favorite. And the thing I love about it too is it's got that gang vocal chorus. You know, the group of everybody's singing together. That chorus. You know, you're kind of chanting along. Your time is going to come. It's just and I love the pace of the song. It's slow enough, you know, but it's not painfully slow. It's got like a nice pop vibe to it. And I think that's why you just see a lot of diehards and even some casual Zeppelin fans always go to this particular song. It's amazing, you know, and I just said that you hear a lot of diehards love it. A lot of casual fans go to it. The song has never been played live. They played a little bit of it in the middle of Whole Lotta Love when they performed in Tokyo in 71. But they never played it live. It's amazing. And when you have a song like this that's so iconic and so classic and so beloved, to just never have heard it in one of their set lists. But yeah, Your Time Is Going to Come. Legendary tune.
This song for me is all vibe. It is probably the only song on this album, for me at least, in my opinion, that creates a vibe from the moment, where it's a groove. And it like you said, you know, with the organ, I went to Catholic school myself. You know, I always associated with, you know, the organ with church music. And when I first started hearing the intro, I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, like I don't know if I'm going to be into the song. And as you mentioned, Tom, the crashing of Bonham's drums sets that tone and that vibe and that groove for the whole song. And you really start to really appreciate, like you did in Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, Page on acoustic guitar. Say what you want about him, you know, on the electric and on the Gibson and whatever he plays. When he picks up an acoustic, the contrast between his playing on guitar, where people describe it as sloppy or with a lot of feel, he doesn't miss a note. He's so clean and perfect on acoustic. It's amazing how that contrast is. At least in my opinion, I've never played guitar, so you know, someone may disagree with me in that. But from my ear, you know, any song that they play, it just seems so. And like when you hear him live, it just seems so different than the feel vibe that he plays when he plays electric. But yeah, this song for me is a blues song. You know, lying, cheating, hurting. I mean, that's the pillars of blues right there, right?
Yep.
You know, so it's a blues song that kind of doesn't really tell you it's a blues song, but if you break it down, it really, that's where the influence of the song comes from.
Your Time Is Going to Come. Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, Robert Plant. I believe we did an episode with you, Jay, on the Hook Rocks when we picked out our deep cuts. And this one was on mine because it is one of my favorite deep cuts. It's one of my favorite Zeppelin songs. It's nothing that anybody goes, oh, Zeppelin? Oh, Your Time Is Going to Come. It's always just like, yeah, I like that song. But nobody ever like sings its praises because they have so many other great songs as well. Well, you found somebody that's going to sing its praises because I fucking love this song. Jimmy's playing a 10-string steel guitar on this. He does a little slide on it a little bit too. JPJ is laying a couple 2 Hammond tracks on this album. That fucking organ, man. I don't know what it is, whether it's him or it's our good friend Don Airy and his rotted teeth. Like those guys and that Hammond organ. I don't know what it is. Or John Lord. Those guys know how to play it. None of this Bon Jovi shit. So this was what I would describe as a pop song. So if we're keeping score at home, you kind of start off with a rock song, you go into a folk song, you go into a blues song, you go into a psychedelic song, you go into a pop song, and next you'll go into an acoustic song. Yep. And then they get back into hard rock and stuff. Or you could say metal song.
Yep.
Right? And then back to a blues and then back to fucking the end all. It's a British pop song for me. There was actually a British pop singer named Sandy Shaw who covered this song in 1969. The song has a rear band chorus on it.
Love it.
And if you even think about it, like it really, if you know off the top of your head, you'd be like, yeah, how many times is Jimmy Page singing in the chorus?
Yep.
That is a rarity. Or anybody singing the chorus. There's usually not. It's usually Robert, harmonizing with himself or something. Tom mentioned about the lack of playing this. He played it, though, with the Black Crowes during the 99-2000 tour again.
Yes.
They pulled this out. Shit. If all these songs that the Black Crowes played with Jimmy Page, I wish I saw that.
That album, if that album Live at the Greek, unbelievable performance, Jimmy Page with the Black Crowes. Oh, my God.
Check it out then.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, Tommy, you hit it off the nail on the head right there with the whole Bonham coming in and then back to the acoustic guitars and the organs are going in. Another fun-loving women verse lyric song, right? And I don't know when he became Robert moved to Boston, but it's Horton. It's a Rhode Island accent.
Horton.
I was Horton. I'm going to call down. I'm going to go to Rhode Island, go grab myself a soda. There's all W's where there's no W's in words. That's a Rhode Island accent, not a Boston one. But love the organ. And there's a couple little things. We talked about lyricists and the way a singer can you don't have to be like the words just got to go with the song. And the way you sing it can make you a great lyricist, even though the songs don't have this profound meaning or anything like that. So the way Robert sings the line, like, this is all I got to say to you, woman, that part. And then boom, the chorus, it's one of those things that one of you guys should have thrown in my face. Like, why do you like this song? You don't like Psycho Circus. It's the same thing. Repeating the chorus.
It's just the title of the song repeated.
You know why I like it? Because fucking Bonham's drum fills on every line after the chorus are insane.
Yep.
And so again, you would have to tie my hands behind my back to not eardrum to after every line of your time is going to come. They're not going bang. It's I'm listening to music for the drummer. Like you're not supposed to be doing that. At least not for me.
That's pretty much all I do. I always pick out the drummer in these.
But for me, I don't get into music because I like the drums of the song. Yeah. This does it for me. It's just incredible. But the greatness of him is not just the drummer you're listening to.
Yeah.
Listen to the bass line. You're listening to the vocalist. You're listening to the guitar guy. They're all gods in their own little way. Then there's a little My Turn to Cry, and then you hear that little slide.
The slide. So great.
Now that's why I like my country. I love that slide guitar. And then my favorite part in the song is Robert's "You've been bad to me, woman, but it's coming on back to you." Then boom. Holy shit. And again, I dare people to listen to not try to air drum to it. Fucking song is just incredible. And it's just a deep cut in the middle of Zeppelin One. No one brings it up. And it's just there for you.
Yep.
Fucking love Your Time Is Gonna Come. So next, Murph is gonna play the next song on the acoustic guitar. Let's go, Murph. You're up.
Black Mountainside. So what is unique about Zeppelin, I don't recall any other bands that you have the track list in 5 and 6, but it doesn't stop. It just bleeds from one song into the other. And this is just based on a traditional Irish folk tune, gives you a sneak peek of what is to come, especially with Led Zeppelin III. I don't know how many rock bands at that time would put out a song on the album with no lyrics. And it's just a simple song with Page and Bonham on some bongos, percussion. And it's 2 minutes, just simple music. And because of my preference in leaning towards folk music and, the canyon sound of the California songs from the late 60s, early 70s, I'm a big fan of this song. I mean, there's not a lot of spice to it or anything like that. It's a nice sounding song. It's soothing. It's 2 minutes in and out, and then you're off to the rest of the album. So that's my feeling on that one.
Murph, you're not a big fan of Deep Purple or Jeff Beck, are you? You'll hear a lot of instrumentals on those too as well.
Okay. I can appreciate that, but I'll stick to my folk music.
Yeah, Black Mountain Side. Like I've said on all the album review crew episodes, anything that has an instrumental, I'm a huge fan of instrumentals. Like Murph said, it's only 2 minutes. It's unique. It kind of gives you a hint at what's to come for the future of Led Zeppelin, with their world music, their folk music, experimenting with different instruments. They have a guest performance by Viram Jasani playing the tabla. You got a whole bunch of kind of world instruments, all kinds of different things. Jimmy Page referred to the tuning on this as the CIA tuning,
Yes.
Celtic Indian Arabic, which I thought was interesting. One of my favorite parts about this, and really has nothing to do with the song, this goes to the production, is how Your Time Is Gonna Come bleeds right into this. So if you're playing the CD or you're streaming it like not without any break, Your Time Is Gonna Come just goes right into this, and you could tell it's like almost accidental.
Well, wait a minute. You guys should know what the best one of all time is. Come on.
What, Detroit Rock City going into King of the Nighttime World?
Yes.
See?
Yes. Adam.
Exactly. But yeah, Black Mountain Side, I don't mind throwing it in there. It's 2 minutes. It's cool. It's interesting.
What's really interesting about Black Mountain Side, and Zeppelin bootleg fans will know this, is that this was the intro to Kashmir on the tour that followed. Jimmy Page would break down into a guitar solo prior to Kashmir, and that riff that he would play, that main riff he plays in Black Mountain Side, would kind of go boom right into Kashmir. So that's why I've always kind of appreciated this acoustic folk instrumental that he plays, because whenever I hear it him playing it on, I don't know if he played it on the 12 or the double neck, or if he just played it on the Gibson, but he goes right into Kashmir on the Physical Graffiti tour that was so iconic.
So it's credited as Jimmy Page. Here we go again, Black Mountain Side. Then apparently the song was inspired by traditional Irish folk song called Down by Blackwater Side. Then a guy named Bert Jansch, credited in 1966, who called it traditional. So that guy calls it traditional. So Jimmy Page is like, oh, traditional, written by Jimmy Page. Of course, he took it for himself afterwards. Live, it was always performed with White Summer. And I think that's when I first learned it.
Me too. That's when I first got experience
Black
with
Mountain Side, along with White Summer on the box set, right?
I believe so, yeah, because I know they combined them when they played them live. But
yeah, exactly. I think that's where I came up with it. And then I guess some Scottish folk guy named Al Stewart taught it to Jimmy Page, and then it went from there. You guys mentioned the bleeding. I'm like, okay. I'm not a big fan of instrumentals. You know that. I've always said that. This isn't unpleasant. It's decent listening. Ding, 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 ding. You get to listen to in the background. Ding, 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 ding. And then there's a part where the really goes off. Ding, 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 ding. So you can tell he's talented. Now, I don't know. I don't know if I want to chalk this up as being self-indulgent, like who wants to hear, but people were listening. This was what people were putting out. Little melodies, little instrumentals and things like that to show people, look at the talent of this band. So it makes sense why it's been on there. I feel, Tom, that this could have been put on the deluxe edition of the soundtrack to Singles.
Oh, yeah.
Those other acoustic things like that.
Yeah.
Couldn't you picture this being on there?
Yes. That's a good call.
That little kind of grungy, kind of like,
like
ding, 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 ding. There's a lot of stuff on Singles, that deluxe edition that has that kind of theme music.
Yep.
Again, a decent song, Black Mountain Side. Let's go to the next track.
Station Breakdown. Probably in consideration for kicking off the album. I'm glad they didn't. I think this song, while strong and powerful, probably wouldn't have had the same impact on me as Good Times, Bad Times, but still just an incredible 2 minutes, 27 seconds of power rock. I think it is probably one of the songs that got tagged to them as being the roots of heavy metal. To me, when I hear this, I actually, with the opening riff, makes me think of having an influence on punk rock. Just that, dun 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 dun. And as I said, 2.5 minutes in and out. It is just incredible song, suggestive lyrics, and it's. I know it's the B-side to Good Times, Bad Times. There was consideration on having this for radio play. Don't know why they didn't. I think it would have certainly gotten it got the fans anyways, but I think it would have pulled in a lot of listeners. And it is a song that was used for a lot of their openers. I understand why. Gets the crowd up off their feet right away, and then, as I said, 2.5 minutes, you're into the rest of the show. So what I like about Zeppelin, they can do a 6, 8, 45-minute song, but still have the same effect on you in less than 3 minutes in. And I think this is always going to be viewed as a good example.
And Murph, you nailed it when you said punk. I consider this like a proto-punk song. And we're not the only ones that agree with that, because Johnny Ramone from the Ramones used to use this song to practice a lot of the downstrokes. Jimmy Page has said that the riff is just so hard to play because at that time it's just like constant downstroking, that chugging riff. In Martin Popoff's book, he actually calls this is Zeppelin's Paranoid. Black Sabbath. It's just this is metal. This is metal, but that term really didn't exist back in 68, 69. This song is just a kick in the teeth by a band that is just firing on all cylinders. Plant's vocals are just off the rails, just insane. Bonham keeping the train moving all along, and Page is just shines on this song. Originally the title was going to be called Too Good. I think Communication Breakdown sounds a lot better. It lends itself better to a chorus. It's a classic for a reason. And it exists as one of those songs where if you're a fan of Zeppelin, or, again, as I referenced with Your Time Is Going to Come, a casual fan, you know this song. It gets radio play for a reason. It's just a guitar rock killer 2.5 minute tune.
This is Led Zeppelin's heavy metal moment on Led Zeppelin One. If you look at the birth of heavy metal, a lot of people want to consider Black Sabbath as the forefathers of metal, and in a lot of ways they are, but this song predates Sabbath. And this has all the elements of what was to come in heavy metal. And if you look at Black Sabbath, if you look at the song Paranoid is a response to Communication Breakdown. Both very similar, both very quick, to the point, get the job done, 3 minutes and some change on the songs, but they both have similar structure and a similar song. The song was also played on Paul Stanley's solo tour, not the Live to Win solo tour, but the one he did with Eric Singer on drums, I think right after the Revenge album. So he did perform. I've got a bootleg from that tour. So he did Communication Breakdown. Paul Stanley's also always spoken of how much this song influenced him. But really, again, this is when I talked about the bangers on this album. This is definitely, if not the definitive one, pretty close to it. It's a very well-known song for Zeppelin. It's a very, riff-oriented, very, very raw, as we've talked about. But it really does, especially live in the first couple of years, really set the tone for them. And in fact, I think they even opened up with this song on a lot of their shows.
Mm-hmm. Communication Breakdown, written by Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, John Bonham. Apparently, there's a promotional video of them lip syncing to this that was out originally.
Black and white, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Prior to anything. But John Paul Jones just says this is just Jimmy's riff. You can tell it's Jimmy Page instantly. It was part of their live tour set list in 68, even when they were doing their Scandinavian tour as the new Yardbirds. They were playing this that early. And you're right. We talked about, the invention of metal. Is this it? Well, I can tell you can bang your head to this. And I feel like that's what is considered metal. Dun, 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 dun. Like you can put your fist in the air and pump your head to this. That's metal. I'm not sure what was done before this. I think the other one was what's that? Inagata Vida by Iron Butterfly. Like that was considered maybe. Where versus Black Sabbath, you say the whole album was a metal album, and that's why Black Sabbath kind of gets it.
Right.
But Zeppelin, you can kind of go to this and say, "Yep, this was the song." Again, Robert couldn't be used for the writing credit. Sorry. And this also has that rare Jimmy Page backing vocal, him and John Paul Jones, which is kind of funny. Communication breakdown.
Yeah, love that.
Communication breakdown. It's kind of there's a reason why they're like, okay, we got to scratch this Jimmy Page backing vocals, okay, because they're not working. I guess they performed this on June 19th, 1969 on a French show that I'm going to butcher to en skiing. I don't know what the fuck that is, but they performed it live then. Between 75 and 79, it was used as an encore for all their concerts. I also think this got a little grunge kind of shit to it too, with the whole distortion and stuff and that raw guitar sound on this.
Like Mudhoney Nirvana type stuff.
Yeah. Early shit. Yep. Like you could picture Nirvana pulling this out with that raw guitar. Like, what the fuck? Tune your guitar, asshole.
Exactly.
But Zeppelin just makes this. It's the metal opening. I can't picture bands or the previous I don't want to say generation, but the Stones, the Who, maybe the Kinks, like really pulling this one out either. I can't picture them.
The Kinks that's a good one though. The Kinks could maybe pull it
Their
off.
riffs were kind of big metal kind of rock riffs.
They were,
but they weren't played that way.
No,
they could be interpreted that way by better bands. Van Halen. But they still had the origins of those songs. Yeah. But I go to the fact that you can bang your fucking head to the song. And that's why I think, especially that opening riff. And then I'm not sure if anybody mentions the most famous part of the song at the 124 mark.
Go ahead.
Suck.
Oh, yes.
Come on, guys. And then boom, guitar blistering solo.
Imagine that back in. I guarantee you, when people heard this in '69, they were like, "Oh, he didn't say that." No, nobody would say that in a song.
Dwight Yoakam does that on "Fast as You," the song from the '90s, and I remember him doing that, and people were like, "Oh, how'd you put that in there?" At some part, it goes "suck," and I was like, "Dude, how did he do that?" He fucking is tipping his hat to Led Zeppelin. Because I remember he was on David Letterman, and Letterman asked him, "Hey, did I just hear you say suck?" I'm like, "Dude, what the fuck, you old
nerd?" Yeah, exactly.
Nerd. He's fucking Zeppelin, you idiot. Yep. Anyways, I love that part, and then the whole fucking Jimmy Page, fucking John Paul Jones, and Jimmy Page chorus at the background makes me laugh.
Communication breakdown.
Yeah.
But then you know what I love about that? When they're doing the communication breakdown, Plant is just going, wow, just wailing. Yeah. Just wailing. Oh, I love it. Love it.
Rick, I can totally picture it now. Thank you.
Love it.
All right. I can't quit you, Murph. I can't.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
I Can't Quit You, Baby. Another blues song. Another Willie Dixon song. While I appreciate the musical contributions of all the members on this song, when I listen to the album, I'm not going to lie, I've had my blues fill at this point. I think Tommy mentioned earlier, they do the traditional slower tempo with this song. So looking at it, just trying to find what kind of jumped out, what I could grab on this. I know that there is apparently a few mistakes by Jimmy Page that are on this that are kept in the recording, which I do listening to this album multiple times over the last few weeks. Appreciate, that this is who we are. We got 99.9% of it right in the studio. We're keeping it in there. And, I think allows one to appreciate more their live performances. But just where all the lyrics for their songs are suggestive, misogynistic, what have you. This particular song, the line of "You messed up my happy home, mistreat my only child." What the hell happened to the kid? Did he was he getting, Kraft mac and cheese, or was he, not getting picked up? That's when I listen to that song. I know it's based from a different time, but what happened to the kid? And did social services get involved? That's the extent of it for me on this one.
All right. I Can't Quit You, Baby. As much as I'm not a fan of You Shook Me, I'm the complete opposite. I fucking love this one. This is it's still slow, still bluesy, but it's not a painful slog. And one of the things I love about this, getting back to my obsession with drummers, I love the little thing that Bonham is doing with the as he's playing. Like, it's so slow, you get the bass, the snare, but he's kind of riding that cymbal, and it's just very, very subtle, and it's kind of keeping that tempo going. Jimmy Page's guitar sounds a lot like Stevie Ray Vaughan, which is no surprise because Stevie Ray Vaughan is all blues influence, loves this kind of stuff. So if you were a fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan, you hear a lot of that in this particular song. I didn't hear it so much and You Shook Me, but I hear it in this. The solo is fantastic. And then as the song progresses, then Bonham just starts going crazy with the kick drum. He's again with his bass drum foot, just doing all these kinds of crazy acrobatics. This song, I think Plant is better in this one than You Shook Me. And the only reason I'm comparing the two is because they're on the same album and they're of similar style. But for me, this is a much better job of doing the blues for me than You Shook Me. I think there's a lot of really cool things going on in this song.
Growing up in Chicago, being a blues fan when I was a kid, Otis Rush was a huge presence in the Chicago blues scene. And this was one of his original songs written, I don't know, it was back in the 50s at some point, but it was written by Willie Dixon, as Murph said. But from what I hear and what I know of the songs, this is kind of like a basic tribute to Otis Rush because it's pretty much exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And it's a great blues number. Otis Rush, one of the great Chicago blues greats, really made this song famous, again, written by Willie Dixon. I do have a handful of bootlegs where this is on. I don't know how prevalent this was live. I'd have to look at it. But again, this was Zeppelin showcasing their blues influence. Another song written by Willie. And of course, the blues influence between this and You Shook Me is rather undeniable.
I Can't Quit You, Babe, written by Willie Dixon, who I think is like the Russ Ballard of blues greats. Everybody else sings his songs. So, yep, you guys already mentioned Otis Rush. Apparently, it's almost like a note-for-note copy of his 1966 version of this song.
66, he said?
Yeah.
I thought it was the 50s.
Its song came out earlier, but he recorded it in a different style in the 60s in 1966. And that version of that track is what they copied. Page is complaining constantly that there's a lot of mistakes on this album, on this specific track, excuse me. There's an edit at the 3:30 mark. I don't know what they're talking about. I can't tell. The live version at Royal Albert Hall ends up, which was done in like January 9th, 1970, ends up on Coda. Mm-hmm. I always remember, like, why the fuck are they putting this song on twice in their stuff? I like how Robert opens with a little a cappella. There's the mistakes apparently are, and I've got this written down because I read it in the book. 129 mark, 317 mark, 244 mark, 336 mark, 432 mark, 437 mark. Good luck. Any nerds want to fucking look that up. I love the call and answer with Jimmy and Robert and the guitar. That bluesy guitar and the Bonham drums and the guitar going back and forth. This is another one, Tom, that I put. You could easily picture in the back scene in Weird Silence.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I was nuts over this girl. And what really did it for me is these big, big, big titties they had. I love the bass in the background of like Jimmy's solo on this. You pick up little things. You're so right, Tom, when you're listening to this on your headphones.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. And then I love that little stop and then just guitar and then the drums again back into the solo. And then the solo just goes off. Oh, that shit is so fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. And again, I mean, as far as the blues go, this is a great version of this song. I would still lean till You Shook Me over this one.
Wow.
I think it's a better version.
I agree.
I like the song, but I just, and it's a great blues song. Nothing wrong with it. It's just a matter of like, you know, you got fucking the Baywatch girls. Which one do you want to have first? I don't know. They're all hot, but I'll take her first. You know, that's what it is.
Yep.
So let's end on the final track.
Longest song on the album, just shy of 8 minutes and 30 seconds. But the sleeve originally would let you think it was only 3.5 minutes, because as we, I think, all have grown to appreciate, Zeppelin's going to do what they want to do. And they wanted to see if this would get some radio play. Another song with elements in the blues. Apparently, they actually were inspired by Howlin' Wolf's How Many More Years. This throws everything at you. I love the beat. When I see How Many More Times, I immediately start hearing in my head, dun, 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 and just that, my head rocking back and forth. And you're kind of like at the beginning on the first track, Good Times, Bad Times. Everyone has an opportunity to shine. They're doing it on, you know, Going Out with the last song. I actually hear John Paul Jones' bass a lot in this song. I mean, I know it's clearly evident that Bonham is Bonham, but what I've just grown to appreciate is someone that is supposed to be kind of just filling in how Jones just continues to deliver time after time, whether it's the organ, it's the bass, you know, just the arrangements. And this song here, I just find it is a great, great way to finish the album. I think Dazed and Confused, while finishing out on side one, is a powerful song. I just think how this song ends at the very end, you know, just the finish is the cherry on top. So my opinion, they picked the right song to finish out the album. And I think if it was January, spring of 69, people probably were in high anticipation of what was to come of the band.
Yeah, this song to me is just Zeppelin in a bottle right here. You're getting everything in one song. You're getting that spectacular bass line from JPJ to open up the song. And then again, we keep saying it. Then Bonham just crashes in with him banging away and that just undeniable riff that you can't get out of your head from Page. Plant comes in. And then, of course, you got that famous breakdown with all kinds of stuff going on, taking stuff from Albert King and Howlin' Wolf and Booker T and the MGs, just all kinds of inspirations being built into that middle breakdown where there's a lot of stuff going on, you know, where he's telling people, I got a child on the way that makes 11.
Okay, wait, like, right there. 1 second. One second.
Go ahead.
My father-in-law is one of 11. That household, that was not heaven. That was hell, I was told. Growing up in a house of 11 is not
nice.
What gets me is the line after that. He's got a little schoolgirl, and she's all mine.
Yeah.
You got a little schoolgirl, and you've pumped out 11 fucking kids?
Yep.
What? Someone's getting arrested.
Every damn night. But
that used to be acceptable back then.
With the schoolgirl? I don't think so.
No, writing about that stuff. Like Christine 16.
No, exactly, I get it. But you're not pumping out 11 kids with a schoolgirl. Well, she's going to be in the short bus then, because she's probably about 35 in school then.
But yeah, this song to me is just, it's what I want from Zeppelin. You know, sometimes when we talk about bands, whether it's Kiss or whoever, it's like, this is what I want out of Zeppelin. They're giving you a structured song, but they're throwing something really special in the middle that makes it Zeppelin. And this is why How Many More Times to me is just an absolute standout in their entire catalog, not just on Zeppelin One. This ends the album, but it really is has all the elements of what makes Zeppelin so great.
Yep. it does also have, some a little bit of a ripoff of one of the greatest instrumentals of all time that Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones actually played on the Truth album. They play on Beck's Bolero, and there's a lot of elements from that. And it was so similar that Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page did not talk for decades as a result of that.
Who wrote Beck's Bolero?
Jeff Beck.
Did he? I thought it was Jimmy Page that wrote it.
You're right. Yeah.
So who's ripping off who? Is that a little bit John Fogerty ripping off himself from Creedence?
No, yeah.
Well, it is again the lore of Page and lore of Zeppelin.
It's more or less like, hey, that's the shit we put on my album. I know you came up with that, but that's on my album. What
it also has to do
doing?
with Beck's Bolero being one of the quintessential influences in many rock guitar players.
No, agreed.
I mean, so when you stamp that as such, and then you rip it off.
But he puts it in there, and it could be a touching nod, and like, hey, I came up with this shit. Here's a little part of it. It's not that much in there.
Is it a touching nod, or because based on the whole album?
I was just going to say that Page has kind of laid the
but
ground.
it's a little section though compared to the blatant.
I get it.
Song.
Page has laid the groundwork for people to question his motives so far. I mean, we're not going to litigate Led Zeppelin 1, but Page has made it difficult for us to kind of trust him.
I agree, but listen, it's only a little section of it.
Yeah, I got you.
In that breakdown,
but it's one of the most recognizable riffs in Beck's Bolero that he rips off. One of the most recognizable riffs. I mean, and like Tommy said, how do you give him the benefit of the doubt? Because he lifted, quote unquote, so much stuff on Led Zeppelin 1 and Led Zeppelin 2.
I borrowed.
Hey, Jay.
Which means he's going to get it back.
Jay, you're talking to guys that our favorite football team won 6 Super Bowls with questionable tactics. We don't care. We just want the finished product.
For yourself.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
I love
who's wearing the Patriots?
I love it.
Patriots hoodie, and he just said that.
I love it.
God damn.
Okay.
You know what? Murph can be on my podcast anytime.
Good. Guess what? Because he's kicked off the Zeppelin Chronicles now.
He can go on there and he can talk to you about the BJs, all the BJs he's given. Barry Manilow. What's some other great ones, Murph, that you love?
Summer.
Bad English.
Bad English. Ooh. Although Dean Casanova is awesome on those albums.
Continue, Jay.
But I just think that it does, again, have all the elements what makes Zeppelin great. It's a long song. It's got a great arrangement, great arrangements that merge together. Again, like most of the tracks on this album, it is a blues song at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, it's a song they played live, a song they used to smoke when they played live too, as well. They ended with a lot of
live version that's on YouTube that there was and I love the breakdown in the middle of it when Robert's introducing his bandmates. On bass guitar, John Paul Jones. On drums, John Bonham. Jimmy Page.
Zeus. Actually, I don't know
a BBC session, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But Zeus, do you remember, and Tommy, that there is classic rock station here in Boston, WZLX, and they used to have the Stairway to 7 p.m. every night, and they would play that clip when they would start the night with Plant introducing everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Good call.
Go, Murph.
Good call.
Perfect. So how many more times written by Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, John Bonham, Robert Plant? Later added, I believe, because he couldn't go on originally, because another part of his contract with CBS there, 8.5 minutes. Don't want any of it cut off. No, not too long. It's one of the 3 Page Bow songs. So we had 2 of the 3 on this album: Dazed and Confused and How Many More Times. I believe this was my number 1 on your episode we did of Deep Cuts,
which I don't consider it a deep cut. I don't.
See, I do. It's not one of those. If you name top 10 or 15 Zeppelin famous tracks, no one's coming up pulling How Many More Times.
True.
Yeah, Zeppelin's a weird band to with deep cuts because it depends on who you're talking to. But you're right. Yeah. I kind of it's borderline deep cut. I agree with you.
I hear you. So the Rosie and the Hunter, This is how good they are, and this is why they could do. And that's why they say we couldn't have anybody replace John Bonham, because everything was feel and live, and they would throw shit out. They said that Jimmy says that they did most of this song with cues and nods in the middle of the song.
I believe
that the Hunter and the Rosie part were kind of spontaneous at the time when they thought about it. So the Hunter was the Albert King with the Booker T, not the wrestler Bookie T, Tom. So he didn't come out.
Thank God it was
sucker.
Yeah, exactly. Different Booker T.
That's good. That's good.
No, not that Booker T, the five-time WCW champion, because he had to repeat it 5 times. The song title and the vocals come from the How Many More Years, the Howling Wolf, which I also hear that there's another part. The bass line supposedly comes from the Howling Wolves, Smokestack Lightning and No Place to Go. In 2 different parts, I heard that it matches both of those. I don't know.
Mhm.
I put that there's a famous nod to Beck's Bolero.
Nod. Yeah.
That fucking funky little bass line and that swinging drum set in the beginning.
Amazing.
Oh my God. It's so like, it's just a band in it, like element, the chemistry between everybody. I don't think many bands could have fucking pulled that shit off.
No.
Murph already mentioned about how they try to trick radio stations with the length of the song. And by the way, Little Robert Anthony is Robert Plant in the song. Oh, and at the end, there's a little bit of a John Paul Jones Hammond organ coming in around the 6-minute mark.
Mhm.
And that fucking picks up. But that bass that he has, and then the Robert scream, and then the cymbals crashing, and then boom, right into that bass line that goes throughout the whole song. And the whole drums at the 2.12 mark, and then guitar solo right down to the Hunter, and then Robin screaming, and then scream at the end, boom, right back into that thing at the end. You can't not know this song and fucking wait for it.
Mhm.
It's like that Phil Collins, Aaron, what do you call it?
You know what's coming in the internet.
You're just like fucking waiting for it. And when it hits, it's great. But the thing that I've mentioned, why I love this song, why I love certain things, and I've mentioned this many times on our Kiss podcast. We actually talk about Kiss on this show, Tom. And that is this song throws in the line from the Booker T song, the Albert King song,
Yep.
the lyrics that he throws out there, and then Zeppelin and Robert Plant throw this in how many more times, and a young singer-songwriter for an upcoming band called Kiss decides to call their 1977 album for this song title, and he steals this line: "Ain't no need to hide, ain't no need to run, because I've got you in the sights of my." This is the part where Robert just says gun,
Yep.
boom. But in the Albert King version, he actually says love gun.
Love Gun. Yep.
And
That's
that's
right.
how you got Love Gun.
Yep.
And that's where Paul Stanley got it.
It's all connected, folks.
Oh
It's
my
all
God.
connected.
And I mean, I'm so fatigued of Love Gun. I am not fatigued of this.
How dare you?
Yeah. Oh,
How
so fatigued.
dare you?
All right, Love Gun.
Oh, come on.
Next thing, I want to hear Ace Frehley sing Love Gun.
All right. Love Gun. Hold on a minute.
I really love you, baby.
Somebody tune my guitar. I gotta take a shit. I'll be right back.
I could have played in Zeppelin. Half these guys are asleep during these bolero. What's a
for
bolero?
Robert Plant if he doesn't want to do the reunion?
Jay, you sounded like drunk British Ace a second
Oh, there you
ago.
go.
Have you ever seen the video of Ace doing like record reviews and people are handing him records?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
Is that what he does?
yeah, is that what he does?
exactly. Yes.
Somebody hands him, it's good times, bad times.
Is that what he does?
How can you not like Page?
Jimmy
does?
Page.
Is that what he does?
Ow. But anyway, yeah. God damn this song. What a way to fucking end an album.
Boom.
Holy Christ. But unfortunately, that is the end of the album. So before we start ranking these songs, why don't we go in order and just give us a, final analysis and thoughts of the album we just heard. Murph.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, this was not the first and probably not even the second album that I stumbled upon, but I think the album gives you a little bit of everything that they were going to cover in the years ahead. They obviously shifted away from the blues as their catalog expanded, but you just get the, kind of the, when you're ordering takeout, you get the poo-poo platter. You're getting a little bit of the psychedelic, you're getting the heavy metal, punk, whatever you want to call it, the folk, hard rock. And this is an album where right out of the gate, everyone's talents were on display. Even though Plant and Bonham were the young ones and they had not been in the studio very often, they were, by the time this album was done, they were pretty much close to polished. They had worked out a lot, and I think because it only took 30 hours to record, just showed how much these four clicked right off the bat. And we're just the listener and the fans were very fortunate that they all stumbled upon each other and started an incredible 10+ year run.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin One for me, it's Murph said it. We've said it throughout this. It's a great display of what this band can do. Every song is unique for the most part. You're getting all different genres, all different things are standing out. Whether it's the vocals, the bass, the drums, the guitar, acoustic, electric. It's got everything. This is a go-to album for me as a Zeppelin fan because of that. As we move on down the discography, who knows where things are going to end up being ranked. But for me, Zeppelin One is classic. It's legendary. One of the all-time greatest debut albums in the history of music for many reasons, mostly of which we just talked about. So fantastic debut. And you just, if you're a Zeppelin fan, this is a go-to album.
This is the table setter. This is the album that tells us what's about to come. And for me, it really is, it shows the beginnings of a great band. I mentioned before Plant's voice. When you hear his voice on this album, it sounds different after every album that came after it. You hear the youth in his voice. And I think the touring, as much as they played out, I think there is something to the element of him blowing out his voice at a very young age. Now, he's one of the greatest vocalists of all time. And him blowing out his voice, we would probably dream to still have the voice that he had after that. But when you compare his two and all the albums that came after, they're that fullness that he had on this first album, to me, is missing. They're still great, but to me, there's an element of the youth in his voice that is gone after this tour, the subsequent tour. Bonham, as much as we talk about Bonham's power on his drums, Bonham became a better drummer, if you can believe it, after this album. Bonham really developed his pocket after this album. He's all power on this album, and he's great at it. And he does a lot of great things, but he really honed his skill and honed his drumming after this album. He really learned to play in the pocket. He really learned what the pocket meant to his playing, which I think is very important to the history of Led Zeppelin. But again, as I've mentioned a few times, this is the table setter. This is for the listener. This is for the fans of Led Zeppelin to show them what to expect on what was to come. Because every album after this had the blues numbers, had the power, the metal tune, the folk song, all that stuff. I mean, it was the birth of Zeppelin. It was the beginning of the invasion.
Jay, I mean, that's a great line, table setter. A great thing about this album is, when you hear a band's discography and you listen to the first album, it's so different than anything else they started getting used to. For them, I mean, this could have been, in my opinion, this could have been in the middle of the pack. This could have been till the end. All these songs fit in their catalog. They've got a variety of different tracks. It's nothing that they couldn't have pulled off after Houses of the Holy or anything like that. I could see somebody saying, yeah, of their 8 studio albums, this is number 8 for me. Or somebody saying, this is number 1 for me. It's all over. Everyone's got a personal taste. I can't say hearing somebody say this album sucks that likes Led Zeppelin.
Right.
There's no way. It's just impossible. It's got so many good tracks on this. and again, for me, the other thought I had of this, and I probably do it for each of their albums, I have rankings, contributions from the members. To me, number one, it's Jimmy Page. That's number one. His guitar playing, just the production, the coming out right the bat with the stuff that he was doing. He was the MVP of this album. Not far behind for me was Bonham.
Yep.
Not far behind from him, I would say John Paul Jones. And I love Robert Plant on this, but he was probably number 4. So think of how great Robert is on this album, and he's probably 4th for me. I don't know what everybody else's rankings are, but that's how I would look at it on this specific album.
Plant felt like he was actually, on some type of probationary period. He wasn't sure if he was going to be in it for the long haul. So, I think there was a little, maybe, he didn't fully turn it up to 11 for the Spinal Tap reference because he was, trying to make sure that he was accommodating Page's needs. And, I think that if they did this album a few years later, I think the one thing about the blues songs on this is that Plant sounds young. You can tell it. And I think for me, just when you hear the blues and, the traditional songs, it's older guys that have had a lot of whiskey and bourbon, smoked a lot of stogies, cigarettes, and you hear that raspiness. And that's why I think, it's unfortunate that he did the damage to his vocal cords, because as soon as you get into Led Zeppelin II, he does sound rougher. And that, the wailing and the screaming that probably was taking place on all the touring they did, was unfortunate that it damaged it. But as you said, Jay, he's such an incredible vocalist that I think the listener, casual or diehard, really doesn't notice that, on the Led Zeppelin II and the preceding albums.
Yeah, Murph, I would just add to this that I think it's confidence. He starts going off and ad-libbing shit. And now later on, he starts becoming the chief lyricist. So now he's like, fuck it, you need me. I'm doing it this way and fuck off.
I'm the golden god.
Yeah, exactly. I think whereas in this album, it's like, I'll sing it this way. I hope it's good. And I think Jimmy Page is like, I'm not losing that fucking drummer. Whatever happens, I don't care. I'm keeping the drummer. The singer is great, but let's see if we can pull this out. And obviously they hit it off and they're off to the races.
I've never heard this confirmed, but I think Plant and Bonham were a package deal.
Yeah.
I think because of where they came from and who they were, I don't think you could have got rid of one and kept the other. I think that they were attached because they were friends. They were friends from the Midlands.
No, and I get that, but I'm saying, I'm thinking Jimmy Page is saying, well, I'm not fucking losing this drummer. So even if he had probational ideas with Robert, that he's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm keeping him because I want that drummer, regardless. And then, Robert takes over and he's MVP on plenty of other albums coming up. Right. But that's what it was for me. So what we do now is the fun part. We start ranking these songs, 9 tracks. We'll go in order as we've been going throughout. And we'll start with our good buddy, Mr. Murph. Let's rank these songs. Number 9 for you.
Number 9, and every song on this album, it goes from liking it to loving it. So there isn't a throwaway on this for me. But number 9, I Can't Quit You, Baby.
Number 9 for me, it's an instrumental. It's always going to be ranked last, no matter how good it is. And that's Black Mountainside.
I'm going to go with Tom on Black Mountainside too as well. Number 9.
Ditto.
Number 8, You Shook Me.
That's my number 8.
My number 8 is I Can't Quit You, Baby.
Number 8 for me, I'm with Jay. I Can't Quit You. Okay, baby.
Baby. Yeah. Number 7 for me, Black Mountainside.
Number 7 for me is I Can't Quit You, Baby.
Number 7 for me is You Shook Me.
Wow. This is where you guys start going, what the fuck? Oh, do this. All right. Number 7 for me. Good Times, Bad Times.
Okay.
Well,
Number 6 for me, communication breakdown.
Number 6 for me is Good Times, Bad Times.
Oh.
Number 6 for me is communication breakdown.
All right. Number 6 for me is Babe, I'm going to leave you.
Go ahead, Murph.
Number 5, Dazed and Confused.
Oh, that hurts.
Oh, okay.
That hurts.
Okay.
That hurts.
Yeah.
Number 5 for me is communication breakdown.
Number 5 for me is Good Times, Bad Times.
Oh, me and Jay are on. I think we might be one flip, but it's the same 5 through 9 so far, I think.
Number 5 for me, communication breakdown.
Okay. Number 4 for me, How Many More Times?
Number 4, Babe, I'm going to leave you.
Number 4, Dazed and Confused.
Number 4 for me is You Shook Me.
Ooh.
Wow.
Oh.
Number 3 for me, Good Times, Bad Times.
3 for me, Your Time Is Going to Come.
Oof. 3 for me, Babe, I'm going to leave you.
3 for me, Dazed and Confused.
Okay, top 2. Number 2 for me, Babe, I'm going to leave you.
2 for me, Dazed and Confused.
2 for me, Your Time Is Going to Come.
2 for me, Your Time Is Going to Come.
That's my number 1. Your
I knew
time
it.
is going
I
to
told
come.
you I was right, Murph. I knew you 1 and 2 way back. I knew it.
All right, I'm impressed.
Oh, I knew it. No doubt they were 1. I just didn't know what order they would be. Number 1 for me was without a doubt for me. How Many More Times?
That's my number 1 too as well.
Nice.
That's my number 1.
Wow.
So what we have here is number 3 is Dazed and Confused, barely beaten out, Babe, I'm going to leave you. Number 2, missing out by 1 point. Number 2 is Your Time Is Going to Come. And number 1 by 1 point is How Many More Times?
Nice. Those are the average rankings. Good stuff. All right.
Absolutely. Now, when we get to Zeppelin 2, we'll compare this album versus Zeppelin 2's by album cover and then overall album.
Right.
But since we have nothing to compare it to, we're going to move on. And what we're going to move on to next is this.
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Led Zeppelin to you. On bass guitar, John Paul Jones. John Paul Jones. On drums, John Bonham. Lead guitar, Jimmy Page. And myself, Robert Plant.
Jay's Bootleg Spotlight. So this one was from Zeppelin One. So was there a bootleg album that you think that people should look into after Zeppelin One?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Texas Pop, the Led Zeppelin bootleg from August 31st, 1969 at the Texas International Pop Festival. Over 100,000 fans, and the bill included Zeppelin along with Janis Joplin and Johnny Winter and Tony Joe White for those swamp rock fans out there. But the set list was absolutely amazing. Started with a Yardbird song, Train Kept A-Rollin', into I Can't Quit You, Baby, Dazed and Confused, You Shook Me, How Many More Times, with a medley of Susie Q, The Hunter, The Lemon Song, which later appeared on Zeppelin II, Eyesight to the Blind, and Bye Bye Baby, Baby Goodbye, and ended with Communication Breakdown. Great set list, great energy from the crowd. The bootleg is one of my favorites from this period, so it's definitely one for you guys to check out. Texas Pop, live at the Texas International Pop Festival.
Nice.
Sweet.
And for the people that like to purchase bootlegs, it is available in CD form online. You can find that. So very cool, Jay. Excellent. I look forward to hearing these. I'm a bootlegger. Between Kiss and Metallica, especially Kiss, there's absurd amounts of bootlegs out there, and I like them. Some of them, when you buy them at risk, because you never know if you're getting a soundboard recording or if you're getting an audience. You might be getting a broadcast recording when you buy a bootleg, so that could depend. But something like this from '69, I'm sure it's going to be good enough for you.
It is good. The sound quality is really good.
Excellent.
So, guys, Murph, where can we find you besides at Whole Foods Market on a Saturday afternoon with socks and sandals?
A latte?
As I've noted before, I am not too active on social media. I like to watch and follow. I'm more on that side. But CCMJTM97 on Twitter. I'm linked to a number of followers from the SIOL podcast.
Nice.
But I do make a point of following Shout Out Loudcast, The Hook Rocks, as well as a few other Pantheon brethren. So as you know, all kidding aside, I like to listen. I like to read, follow what others' recommendations are out there. So hit me up if need be.
Jay.
Well, you can find me as your host of the Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. We're on Twitter and also on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at The Hook Rocks and find us on Facebook by searching The Hook Rocks. You can find us on any podcast platform, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, wherever. We drop about 3 to 4 episodes per week, so we're a very prolific podcast. And we've had some really good episodes lately. You can check out my interview with the director of the full lineup from Thin Lizzy documentary, Songs for While I'm Away, Emer Reynolds. Chatted with her all the way from Dublin, Ireland. It was a great interview about Phil the man and who he was as an artist, as a performer. We do a lot of focus on new music, new bands. We featured we've done over 100 new music spotlights. We usually do one a week, 4 to 6 a month. And some of the recent new music spotlights are Crooked Shapes, Black Spiders, Seven Stones, The Odd Even. So check out all those interviews. We like to introduce bands to you, new bands in rock. So if you're interested in finding new music, please check that out. And we also have some great music commentary as well. We just dropped a great episode this past month on the streaming services proposing the lowest royalty rates in music history. And we break down what that means for the artist and what that means for you, the fan. So check out all of those. And also we did a great legacy interview too as well with Phil Lewis from LA Guns. Great new album from them. Probably their best since Cocked and Loaded. So check that out. Drop by, comment on our podcast and let me know what you think.
I think we can also find Jay on OkCupid and various other dating profiles because he is a handsome bastard.
Podcasters.com singles, podcastsingles.com.
That's what we got to create next. A podcasters dating app.
Instead of Christian Mingle, it's podcast.
You are an attractive man.
He is an attractive man.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see you after 10 a.m. because you look like shit when we get on these morning calls, Jay. That's why.
Well, it's because I basically roll out of bed, plug in my computer, and go on Zoom, and that's
that 11 o'clock wake up is really tough. Tom, where can people find us?
All right. So if this is your first time hearing us or finding us, so we are Shout It Out Loudcast. We are an all Kiss podcast, dropping new Kiss episodes every Saturday. We also have another sidecast called the Album Review Crew, where it's Zeus and I and Sonny Pooney, and we do that once a month. We each rotate and pick a non-Kiss album from any genre. It's usually the rock metal genre, but we're starting to expand that. Those are once a month. And then now we have the Zeppelin Chronicles, which is going to be not as common and not as frequent as Album Review Crew, but we are going to be doing these. And you can find us on our email, shoutitoutloudcast@gmail.com. And we're on all the social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can tag us, check in with us. You can send us DMs. And we're proud to be part of the Pantheon podcast family with Jay and the Hook Rocks and a ton of other shows. And you can find us on all the podcast platforms out there. And also, we also have a Patreon. If you're interested in that, you can check us out on patreon.com, or you can download the Patreon app and search for Shout It Out Loudcast. Take a look around there and see what's going on. And we're grateful for any of our, all of our current and active patrons.
What are we doing on Patreon now, Tom? Which I'm not sure is a great idea, but what are we doing?
We are allowing our album review crew picks. We're going to be rotating to allow them to have some input on what we do. Ultimately, we have final say. So if people are going to start submitting ridiculous picks, just let you know you have no chance of ever getting picked.
So a Celtic Frost double live album will not be selected then?
That's a Celtic Frost, I believe.
Oh, I thought it was a Boston Celtic Frost.
No, it's going to come down. Our next pick comes down to between Cannibal Corpse and Iced Earth and Man of War. I think that's what we're picking from. I'm kidding. That's a joke. We're not doing that. But yeah, those are all the things that we offer. And yeah, Zeus, you have a couple of things to chime in too to let our listeners know what we do.
Yeah. People can always DM us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We do respond to those. We like the feedback. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is constantly growing. So if you want to listen to us there, even if you don't listen to us on YouTube, we do put up some other stuff there. So subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. And you can give us one of those 5-star child reviews on Apple iTunes, Facebook, Podchaser, wherever you like. Those also help us get us bigger in front of the masses, and gets our podcast out there to more and more people. We appreciate those. And as always, I always like to repeat the email because we love those emails. And emails work great for these type of sidecast episodes. So email us about the Zeppelin Chronicles, Zeppelin One. You can email us at shoutitoutloudcast@gmail.com, shoutitoutloudcast@gmail.com. What we do after these episodes, we always go to famous last words, and that is lyrics from the album we just discussed. So, Murph, you got any?
Always the same. Playing your game. Drive me insane. Trouble's gonna come to you.
Oh, beautiful poetry. She swore that she would be all mine and love me till the end. But when I whispered in her ear, I lost another friend.
What did you whisper, Tom?
Exciter.
That's the creepiest moment of the episode right there.
You're a Kiss fan. You know what I'm talking about.
Dazed and confused for so long, it's not true. Wanted a woman, never bargained for you. Lots of people talk, and few of them know. Soul of a woman was created below.
Oh. Take that off your OkCupid profile. I don't think it's going to help you out, buddy.
Chicks aren't going to want to.
Maybe it will help me out because I know what I need to do.
Any girl who likes that lyric worships the devil. You don't want that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they might say, well, maybe he knows what he's doing.
You might be right. What do I fucking know?
That's a good point.
All right. I got me a girl and I kissed her, and then whoops. Oh, Lord. Well, I did it again. Now I've got 10 children of my own. I've got another child on the way. That makes 11. But I'm in constant heaven. That's a Gene line at the end. But I'm in constant heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Christine.
I think Robert actually had a child on the way when he ad-libbed that song.
He did.
Correct.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, Murph, thank you. Jay, thank you. Tom, thank you. Zepp fans, Loudcasters, Kiss Army, thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone. See you in 2022.
Take care, everybody. Check out the Hook Rocks. Talk to you soon.
Guys, thank you so much. This is awesome. It took a while for us to get here, but I'm so glad we did it. This has been a blast. We hope you guys enjoy this as much as we had putting it together. So thank you, Murph, Zeus, and Jay. Love it.
Peace out, Girl Scout.